start the party.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Hey, lovelies, we're back. We lost the stream on that one. Apologies for that. I'm going to play up a tune while you get in the chat, okay? And I need to do a few technical things here. Oh, we're back, so I can see the chat. I just want to make sure it is up on screen because that might be static. I'll just drop a message in. I'm just going to get things running. We're going to play you up. An Island is coming online in about 8 minutes. We've got a new host, so show us some love, okay? But Keith Urban, Blue Ain't Your Colour.
I can see you over there staring at your drink, watching that I sink all alone tonight. And chances are you're sitting here in this bar, 'cause he ain't gonna treat you right. Well, it's probably not my place, but I'm gonna say it anyway, 'cause you look like you hadn't felt the fire, had a little fun, hadn't had a smile in a little while, baby. Looks good on the sky, looks good on that neon buzzing on the wall, but darling, it don't match your eyes. I'm telling you, that guy, it's so black and white, he's stealing your thunder, baby. Blue ain't your color. I'm not trying to, I'll be another just pick you up kind of guy, trying to drink you up, trying to take you home. But I don't understand how another man can take your sun and turn it ice cold. Well, I've had enough to drink, and it's making me think that I just might tell you, if I were a painter, I wouldn't change you, I'd just paint you bright, baby. 'Cause blue looks good on the sky, looks good on that neon buzzing on the wall, but darling, it don't match your eyes. I'm telling you, you don't need that guy. It's so black and white, he's stealing your thunder, baby. Blue ain't your color. No, no, no. It ain't your color, baby.
is the way I feel. When it's real, I keep it alive. The road is long. There are mountains in our way, but we climb a stair every day. Love lift us up where we belong, where the eagles cry on the mountain high. Love lift us up where we belong, far from the world below, up where the clear winds blow. Some hang on to used to be, live their lives looking behind.
All we have is here and now. All our lives are there to find.
The road is long. There are mountains in our way, but we climb a step every day. Love lifts us up where we belong, where the eagles cry on a mountain high. Love lifts us up where we belong, far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow. Time goes by, no time to cry. Life's you and I alive. Day, love lifts us up where we belong, where the eagles cry on a mountain high. Love lifts us up where we belong, far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow. Love lifts us up where we belong, where the eagles cry on a mountain high.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy.
Hey, lovelies. We're back. This is Sunday Long Live with Ria Boris. Sunday is long and is live. We're having a nightmare. It's been a slow motion car crash all day long. I've either run out of 50p's for the electric. I'm not being serious there. Or the internet's coming to get us, but it's coming at us either. But do you know what? Bothered. I don't care. I'm just going to keep going. I love you guys. Thank you for joining us in the chat and the radio affiliates. This has probably been our worst technical day to date, and we've had some bad days, but this is particularly bad. Today, guys, we're going to introduce you to a new host from Ireland. She's lovely. I want you to show plenty of love. You know, this is her first time. Dumbbell's going to be joining us, and we're going to find out what's going on in Ireland, because I don't have a clue, much like most things. So I'm going to introduce them in. I'm going to throw it over to DB, and DB, you throw it to Nan. Would you like to introduce Nan to the people, please, DB?
I would be pleased to. On behalf of Sunday Long Live, this is Nanon, and Nan is going to report on all things good and nasty and behind the scenes and up front of the scenes over in Ireland. How you doing, Nanon?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dumbbell. How are you? I'm delighted to be on today with you and Ria. And say hello to all the people in YouTube live chat as well.
Yeah, it's pretty busy over there. busy old chat. Pseudotopia says 3 a.m. challenge is just a YouTube trend which gets a lot of hits. Okay. You remember when they took Siri offline for making Nazi statements, says Enoch. Mickey American, where is Gran Torino? I don't know, but I'm sure we can say g'day. G'day, Gran Torino. Stuart Walker, hi, Noun. Lots of love and peace. So big g'day to you. Paul Starmer says, hello, Nanon. And Pseudotopia says, g'day, Nanon. Everybody's shouting out to you, mate. So how's things in Ireland anyway?
Oh, Nanon arrives in the middle of the technical difficulties. Typical. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, good to be talking to you, Dumbbell, and all the rest of the YouTube live chat. Yeah, I'll just give you a brief rundown on Ireland, and then we'll probably go into the rest of the chat wherever that takes us. Dumbbell, God on your nose.
We'll just have a good time with it. There's lots of things happening, I see, though. Lots of things in the Irish news I'm looking at. But sorry, over to you.
Yeah, I suppose the first place to start would be just about the Irish news itself. You know, we're a very small island, and we don't have the vast array of channels and networks and newspapers that most people have. We have a couple of major newspapers here, like the Times, and we have independent newspapers. But mostly we get a lot of, affiliates from the UK, like the Daily Mail and all of those. We get the Irish version of those. So I picked up a few headlines for today. First of
we might have.
Did you lose?
No, you're back again. Wonderful.
Ah, cool. Right. I suppose as well, the same goes for the TV stations as well. We would have, say, our national channel, which is run by the government, and whichever Irish household has to pay a TV license. That's the way it stands at the moment. Then we have TV3, which would be more or less an independent TV company, but still connected very much to the state. Then we have TG Cahir, which is the Irish channel itself. Most of those are as independent channels, but not necessarily that independent. And just to say that I'm not a journalist either, so the nitty gritty of these things, we just go with our general perceptions, you know.
Yes, same here. A lot of the independent media outlets here in Australia can pretty much be linked back to the one source, but then again, it sounds like there's a good independent, a bit more of an independent spread of opinion put out to the people in Ireland. Would that be true?
No, Dumbbell, it's not actually true, which is part of the reason why, I sort of made a decision to come out and speak about the alternative news that we're not. Because just like everywhere else, most of the mainstream media are running with the same canned stories following the one agenda, as you and I well know. So in Ireland, we're particularly, hard done by the lack of investigative journalism of any description. But what amazes me is that we're all here from different countries and we're all telling the same story. So we, the people, the citizen journalists, are having to go out and dig for these alternative. All we want is the other side of the stories, which is really hard to find.
Oh, I agree. We're not doing this for the great "I told you so" moment or any sort of anything like that. What we're doing is trying to make people understand that the misconceptions that they might see or that are represented in their governments and what's going on go a lot deeper and affect their everyday lives a lot more than they would perceive. And I think people are starting to understand that now, but maybe not in the sense of through their media outlets. I think their own curiosity and higher self is leading them to hit those keyboards and find out and disseminate the information for themselves, which is where we come into play, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. I feel that a lot of people feel that something is not right as opposed to something is wrong. They just have this feeling something is not right about this, and they're looking deeper. And like us guys have been sort of researching this stuff for not that long, really, more intensely recently, but generally we would have been the type of people who would have looked into various issues. And but it seems now that more and more people are coming together with this with the results of the research. Really, there's vast quantities of research out there that I suppose the Anons and the Q movement and general citizen journalist type people would have amassed. And we're hoping that what we're discovering is not lining up with what we're hearing on the mainstream, So we're hoping that we can maybe bring a little bit of that information out, that we've, the alternative viewpoints.
Yeah, and we've had people who like the way too. I'm not putting down people at all. I mean, human beings are very clever, resilient beasties we are. But if somebody threw a bucket load of 5,000 multicolored balls at a Labrador and said, just pick out the red ones, thanks, mate, it'd take a while. So we've had a bit of help and we've had dissemination. I myself, I believe in the QAnon. I think it's a military intelligence directive unit. I think it compromises different people at different stages. But that's just my belief. I also a firm believer in Donald Trump. I think what he's doing. I don't believe in deifying anybody or anything. But if somebody earns your respect and you believe in their political policies, like he's doing, he's earned my respect. I like what's happening. It's a shame that it has to take this situation on the wall in America, but we've got kilo blocks of fentanyl coming through. You need a little sprinkling of pepper-like substance of that, and you've got a dead person on the end of a heroin needle. I mean, this is ridiculous. The country is getting attacked by drugs and not by mum and pop immigrants who just want a better life for themselves, and justifiably so, but by these heathens, these MS-13. All the crookedness that's coming through is ruining any sensibility of any fair go that these normal people might have had. So there has to be a moratorium of sorts on it for the next year or two, and it has to cool down. And the drugs and the gangs, the child trafficking and the trafficking of body parts, I might say, has to stop. That's just my opinion, Nanon.
Yeah, Dumble, I'd agree with that. I think you don't have to believe in the Q movement to see what's come about here. Q is probably led the way in bringing the researchers together. It's my idea that these researchers have been out there for a very long time, but they've all been working away, beavering away, researching various issues, and suddenly something has happened and we've all sort of come together and the information is overwhelming. I'm beginning to feel a bit like that little pug you were talking about, throwing the thousands of balls at him and asking him to pick out the red one, because I think we're a bit, we can feel a bit, information overload, I'd say.
Yes, but there are ways. There are ways. We've found it. There's geniuses over at some of the Q boards that these guys can pick a needle out of a haystack. They're specialists in all trades. They're specialists in finance. They're specialists in occult religions. They're specialists in different assets of banking and legal. And everybody's putting their oar into the water to try and help this movement. And do they expressly know what the movement is? No. Is it formless, tasteless? To a degree it is. I mean, we've got QAnon there, and we've got the yellow vest, God bless him, which is a symbolism of an ideal, the yellow vest. I think it's brilliant. But we've just got to keep disseminating the information as it stands. I mean, people think we've got to do more, we've got to do less, we've got to do... I think we just ride the wave as it is, make sure we're steadfast, because this is a long haul. It's not going to be any short little battle. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, Dumbbell. I think the wall is almost symbolic at this stage as well. There's a lot of Trump has been very specific about what it is he's trying to keep out from the wall, by building this wall, even though it does sound a bit prehistoric to be building these walls in this day and age. But at the same time, I think there's a message behind his targeting of the negativity that he perceives to be behind the wall, which I suppose feeds into our view that we're not getting information on what's behind the invisible wall that we're all sort of trying to clamber over at this stage. It's a bit like Game of Thrones, and we're trying to climb up there and have a look across the wall,
Yeah. And for those guys that are out there listening, I don't think our intentions are to go right deep into the inner workings of the Illuminati or the Cabal, but there's basically an outside powerful situation that runs through religion, and it runs through government. It runs through right down to certain positions in your local government that know they're compartmentalized and they don't know exactly the big picture, but they know they're doing their little bit for it. But it doesn't matter to them because they're pocketing a lot of cash and they're going to live a very sweet life. Should we secede to this manipulation as we go into 2018? I mean, if you look back through history now, and God bless them, the twin wars back to back, but that was just sheer murder. Would today's current rank and file people acquiesce to such sort of bloodlust? I don't think so. Not in a hurry at any stretch of their imagination. Do you think so, Nenon?
I think we're at a point in time where we're looking at what's coming. We're like we do look at the mainstream media because we look at what they're leading. But what we're inclined to do is saying, well, how is that going to affect us? Is that good for the people, we the people? So I think it's we the people are beginning to take notice about how the stuff is packaged up for us, And we've done digs, Dumbbell, into propaganda and the lengths they'll go to package up the message, so that the real message is not out front. And as you were talking there, I was just thinking that a lot of light is getting shone. I've always had that idea in my head, just to shine lights on stuff, and we're not alienate Q followers. We're not coming down on the side of this religion or this government or this mainstream media outlet or whatever, but we are shining lights across the whole of these, what would you call them? Organizations, organizations, associations, all these bodies that have been set up to channel the message and so forth. But somehow the we the people message is not in there. That's my main issue, Dumbbell. The we the people message is not in there.
Oh, it's so not in there. It's so not in there. There's just some messages for you from the chat at the moment. Enoch says, lol, when I hear Irish news, I remember Public Images Limited. This is religion. Night and Day said, hey, Nanon, you're sounding great. Gag, Girls Against Globalism. Joe Pell, Nanon, I lived in Co-Offaly as a child. My data is from County Cork. Peter, Gemma's show is superb. Maki American, I carpet memed Ireland on Facebook 2 weeks ago, and now Gran Torino is MIA. He's in Ireland. Find him, please. Okay, this is your mission if you wish to accept it. Loud and clear, YouTube, Ria Bow. Very great. Thanks, Bullrock. We're going down. The Love Doctor is in the house, Ria. Where is Noddy's in the house? Thank you, Noddy.
Hi, Noddy.
Bullrock says, never give in to this. Eventually it'll place us back into the dark ages alongside nuclear weapons. Very bad idea. Joe Power, who is Dumbbell? Sorry, so Sunday. I'm a very slow Australian, so it suits the slow Sunday, Joe. I'm living here in Sydney. I'm originally a musician, a bass player, but sorry about that. we hang out with drummers. And I'm just lending my help to Nanon here with her fine Irish show. And hopefully I won't do too bad a job, but you know, I'm not in touch with a lot of Irish stuff, so I'm trusting Nanon will lead the way and be able to tell me just what the heck is happening over there. I don't like your leader, this Varenka guy.
You got the name wrong. You got the name wrong there, Dumbbell. A lot of people do. His name is Varad, and he's Irish, Pakistani origin. He's a medical doctor, and he's our what we call Taoiseach, which is your version of Prime Minister. So today, with the mainstream, I've more or less focused on our Taoiseach, Mr. Varadkar, and Leo is his first name. So he gets called all versions of Leo. But I've just followed him more so today, just to see what our Leo is up to. And so far, he's been visiting a lot of the African countries, and I can read. I'm going to read out a couple of the mainstream news stories of the week there with regard to Leo the Taoiseach. So it'll give you guys an idea of what our Irish representative is up to. So if you're up for that, fair enough. If not, let me know in the chat.
Oh, I'd like to hear about the guy. He sounds very Eurocentric. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, just to cut a long story short, I suppose he's in the Trudeau-Macron group, very much what we would call the globalist mindset, you know, full-on EU, looking for a seat on the UN Security Council for himself. I'll just go through an article here. This article is by our national RTE, which is Irish for Radio Telefís, which Éireann obviously is Ireland. So it leads off there with the Taoiseach explains his visit to male-only religious site in Ethiopia. Now, the backdrop to that is our Taoiseach has just undertaken a visit to North Africa, where he went to Mali and he went to Ethiopia and various other African countries. Now, we're not quite sure what he's doing there, but the reports are... I'm just going to read one fairly short article about that, if you don't mind.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, I'll just go for it here. This is by rte.ie. A spokesman for the Taoiseach has issued a statement to explain why he visited a male-only site during his visit to Axum in northern Ethiopia, while the female members of his delegation were required to wait outside. But I suppose that's honouring their traditions, you know. Women on the Irish delegation were made to wait at the gate of one section of this church complex, which Leo Varadkar visited yesterday. But the point about all of this is, and I'll just come away from the article there for a second, is he was visiting these heritage sites with the view to trying to set up some type of liaison with Ireland with regard to cultural issues and heritage with Ethiopia. So people in Ireland are wondering, what do we have in common with Ethiopia? He recently went on our national TV station that I referred to there as well, where he gave a broadcast from Mali, which is another African state, and where he visited some of the poorest areas and was checking up on Irish aid. As we know, with the charities and so forth and the USAID and all of these aid agencies, under the banner of the UN and Clinton Foundation, I might add. So he was trying to sort of give the Irish people an idea about how this money was being spent. So we're wondering then, why is the Irish money being spent over in Mali when we've just since 2008 been savaged by the IMF and the World Bank in the financial crisis. So just, I suppose these mainstream stories are following your Taoiseach and looking at what he's doing and so forth. But the Irish people are just standing with scratching their heads, wondering, where is this going, or why is this happening? And we're not seeing the critical analysis of this. You know, I haven't even gone near the UN Migration Pact or its effect on Ireland or anything like that.
I get the impression there's a lot of like watch the magician's other hand stuff going on with this guy Varadkar. He just look, first impressions, he just seems slippery as all get out to me, Nanon.
I'll just go a little bit further into that article there, Dom. And what it says here is the Taoiseach returned to Ireland this morning after, well, that was during the week there, after a week-long visit to Africa. Visits to Irish Defence Forces members. Irish Defence Forces members training the Malian army. Training the Malian army. And projects funded by Irish Aid in Ethiopia were the focus of the programme. So I'll just go through that again. Visits to the Irish Defence Forces members training the Malian army and projects funded by Irish Aid in Ethiopia were the focus of the programme. Okay, I'll keep going. Mr. Varadkar also met political leaders in both countries, which is Mali and Ethiopia, to lobby them for, and this is the crucial part. This is the sandwich where they put the meat. They put the meat between the two slices of bread here. Mr. Varadkar also met political leaders in both countries to lobby them for support of the Irish government's campaign for a seat on the UN Security Council. Did you get that?
Yes.
Well, we're wondering, what is that about? I'll continue on. During his final day, he also visited social safety net programs, which receive Irish support, and some type of honey-making cooperative, obviously some sort of small business started. I'm not sure which country that was. The Taoiseach pledged continued support from Ireland for the UN High Commission on Refugees in the running of May Ani refugee camp in the Tigray region, which is home to 13,000 Eritreans. I'm just going to finish it off there. There's only one bit left here.
Oh, you go for it.
While there, he told reporters, I'll be going back to Ireland this evening. I go back to Ireland and Europe with a better perspective and a recalibrated perspective of what we must do in the world. We must continue to help you here with the refugee crisis and fund the UNHCR as we do. So that's another UN. I think that's the one on refugees. I'm not sure. Europe must do more in the future to bring to Eritrea. In particular, greater democracy, greater freedom, greater security, and greater economic opportunity for them, so that they don't feel that they have to leave their homes, said Mr. Varadkar. Now, Dumbbell, I'm not saying that I'm not saying there's nothing good behind all of this, but the Irish people are scratching their heads, you know, given that the UN Migration Pact, and we've studied that, we've gone into it bigly, as Trump would say, bigly. But we're wondering, Dumbbell, and that's the only reason I'm reading these articles, because we've learned to read the language. We've learned to look behind the language and the stories that they're choosing to run with, you know. And we're saying to ourselves, in the midst of a crisis in Ireland, and the crisis was for we the people, not for the elite, if you want to call it that. You know, we're running out of words to describe this stuff. But the elite, we have the Facebooks and the Googles, and we have all the big tech here. We've all the big pharmas here based in Ireland, and it does give us a lot of employment, and we're not knocking any of that. But we the people have suffered a terrible blow with the 2008 crash. Now, that's 10 years ago, 11 years ago, so the impact of that crash has been affecting Ireland for 10 years. And we've lost loads of small businesses. The laws have changed. The banks are back up again. I have another article I'll go into about the banks. Just, we just deal with snapshots, Dumbbell. It's all we can do, I hope the YouTube people are not thinking that we're hopping around from one story to the next story and that they're not connected. But they are connected, as we know.
Oh, everything's connected. You'll find that in some weird shape, way, or form, this could be connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Epstein's Island. 6 degrees of separation, and I guarantee you that bloomin' Kevin Bacon will be in there somewhere. It's amazing. But Night and Day Plumbing Solutions in the comments says the only thing I can think of that we have in common with Mali and Ethiopia is that we all breathe oxygen. I can't think of anything else. Can you? Stuart Walker agrees with that. I'm just reading down the list here. Foreign aid usually translates to military assistance. Sick or what? Elizabeth Taylor said that.
Yeah, Elizabeth is right, because I just, there on that one, Dumbbell, I said that the Irish army were training Malian troops.
Right. And
So-
you think Varadkar would lend a little bit of that money to Merkel so she wouldn't have her troops jumping out of helicopters with broom handles painted black, don't you? Should be some of that cash.
Oh, I'm glad you're here today, Dumbbell, to have a bit of a laugh. I need a laugh.
As dire as things look, seriously, every day is a healthier day for us. And we are the good guys in this. Pat yourselves on the back, everybody, because it's just coming to light. And I love how you talk of the light, because Leonard Cohen's got that great saying, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And it does. We need to lift up one dirty, dark veil of secrets, and the light acts as a disinfectant, metaphorically speaking. And the more people carrying a torch, the better. And what we're able to do here, from science aspects, space aspects, political aspects, socio aspects, is everybody's finding a gravitas, and when things spin, they tend to coagulate, and like-minded and likewise sticks together. There's a lot of jokes to be had about that too. But I really like the energy. It's a great energy to be involved in at the moment, and it can only grow, and it's only in the positive. And believe me, I've been having a crack at this for a few years, and I'm every bit the skeptic. But I wake up like a Cheshire cat in the mornings, because there's a lot of good things happening, positive. The world is joining. New World Order, again, doesn't have to be a bad thing. It just needs to be a state of not a hive mind or group think, but a state where people are on the same page and in a sovereign sort of expression can join and converse and cohese and express and disseminate information amongst themselves. This is only going to grow from discord and what it exists in the Yellow Jackets to a much bigger way of life over the next 20 years. But 20 years it will take. Then on.
Yeah, I agree, Dumbbell, and I love your optimistic viewpoint. You always lift me up by saying that. This globalist stuff is positive as well, because funny enough, look at it, we wouldn't be here only for it. You know what I mean? So I hear the guys coming on. I've listened to Ria now for quite a while. I listen to the guys coming on from Canada. You guys in Australia. I listen to the UK. I listen to, the various other hosts, and we're all telling the same story. It's like a great awakening. I think, the Q movement would call it something like that, the Great Awakening. So
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it's a global great awakening. We're looking at the yellow vest movement, which is another symbol for people who are wakening up.
Yeah, and without this boulder in the road of this Babel language barrier, the Spanish and the French and the Dutch, and everybody would be talking the same language right at the moment, and they're doing it by wearing their vest. I don't like the way they're being thumped around by the gendarme. It's not good, and it's only looks like it's getting worse. Some orders have come up from up high. When, if you're wearing that uniform, does the time come when you have to look in at your higher self and say, I'm not going to raise my arm to this person? I mean, the agent provocateurs are going harder out. You know, the George Soros, Freudian slip. They are like spores. The Soros-sponsored agent provocateurs and their window-breaking, livelihood-wrecking ways, they'll go out there and try and say, we represent them, they don't represent us. The Nazis here in Melbourne will stick their hands in the air and do little Hitler dances. They don't represent us. Truth wins out always. It always does. Decency wins out always too. Beats political correctness every day. You just got to give it time and room to breathe. And communication. Over to you, Nanon.
Yeah, I mean, it's that going back to that shining the light, and also going back to the feeling that something is not right, that the we the people narrative is not in the mix in the mainstream media, you know. And say, for instance, I have another short little story here from one of the Irish outlets here, and it's just generally sounds really good. But somehow or other, it seems to be, you know, when your eyes are open, I suppose you look with the third eye at stuff, you know, and it's just an ordinary article here. Just a minute, I'll see who it's by.
Thanks.
It's by RT again, right? And it's just an article here. Ireland has just introduced a new offence of coercive control in domestic violence law, right? So this is new. This is going to be taking effect now in Ireland. So we'll have just a quick look at it, and you know, see what people. It says a new law on domestic violence comes into effect. Now, you know, everybody would say definitely nobody wants domestic violence and so forth, right? But announcing the commencement of the Domestic Violence Act, Minister for Justice and Equality, Charlie Flanagan is our Minister for Justice here. And Justice and Equality are one department. So they're not separate. So Justice and Equality are the same department. Charlie Flanagan says it improves the protections available to victims of domestic violence, both civil and criminal. One of the key new protections for victims under criminal law is the creation of a new offence of coercive control. So what I'll do is I'll just cut it down a little. It's like psychological abuse in an intimate relationship. And then they go on to define what an intimate relationship is. So it's the threat of intimidation in an intimate relationship. This now is going to be a criminal offence that can be charged here in Ireland. So we're not quite sure how that would be, you know, how a jury or a court of law or however they do it, how they would prove that sort of thing, and that there couldn't be nefarious allegations made. And if any of you guys have followed the Judge Kavanagh hearings with the Blasey Ford allegations, and also the lawyer from New York, Avenatti, who also lined up 3 or 4 other women who made what turned out to be baseless allegations against the appointment of Judge Kavanagh on the Supreme Court of the USA, which, you know, with in front of the Senate, with things like, I don't know who was there, I can't remember when it was, So the who, what, where, when, and why was completely missing from the allegations, you know? So when I see something like this coming up, I say to myself, where are we going with this? What's happening with this?
Oh, that Kavanagh setup and Avnetti, I mean, that's how desperate the deep state is, that they would throw up. And basically he's only used there as a temporary distraction. But he's an ambulance chaser. He's a very low quality human being, in my opinion, personally. And the people that we represented, they were only out there to throw a smoke screen in the way and buy some time, more CYA from the Democrats. And it's all just headless chicken stuff from them at the moment, Nanon. And I think the Euro, I'm happy at the moment because what's happening with Italy and is it Romania and Hungary, Poland, are going to branch off from the Euro. They're putting, and the pressure that'll be felt by that, by the carpet strollers in the EU, is, I think, very powerful. I think that's what's going on there between those parties are going to scare, alongside the upcoming, let's hope, in my opinion, again, Brexit, a no-deal Brexit. That's going to be a big sock on the jaw for the Euro Nazis that are running the EU. What do you think?
I'm going to jump in there. Let me just jump in there, guys. Sorry to just gate crash the party. I'll give these guys a bit of a rest a second. If you're just joining us, this is Ria Bow on Sunday Long Live. Is Sunday is long and it's live. The new radio affiliates higher. I hope you're enjoying Nan and Dumbbell. We've got loads of tech going on in the background here, but we're getting through it. Going to give these guys a quick break, play you a song. But on the other side of this, I'm going to be asking Nan about why she decided to come in there. We're going to learn a bit more about Nanon, a bit more about Ireland, because I'm going to fire some fairly quick fire questions at Nanon. But meanwhile, enjoy this. Fleetwood Mac, Rhiannon.
Well, you
online radio that makes you happy.
Hey, lovelies, we're back. How are you doing? This is Ria Bowen, Sunday Long Live. We've got loads going on in the background here, but we're going to ask Nan a bit more about what's going on, what tipped her over the edge, why she came on live, because we've been discussing this stuff behind the scenes for a while. And also with the radio station format here is we don't go too deep. If you want to go deeper, go to our website, click the chat room and jump in there you'll get the deeper drills and less soft censorship by ourselves, and that's where you'll get the news from. So go to our websites or just type in hashtag Sunday Long Live or hashtag gag and you'll find your way to our website, okay? Or just in your browser, just type in Sunday Long Live Radio and you'll find us. In the chat room is where you'll get the deep drill, okay? So this is quite important. Nan, question. What was it that made you think that, because I asked you quite a while ago to come on and you wasn't quite sure, which is totally okay. What was it that made you think, okay, no, do you know what? I'm going to give this a go. What's your thoughts on that, Nan?
Well, yeah, you're right, Ria. I'm not a front person at all. I've always been a sort of a backroom type researcher person with a curious nature. So, I did a lot of research. I contributed a hell of a lot of research to the Discord boards. I thought that was enough. I support those guys that are out there doing like I suppose I decided to speak up. But originally I was supporting people who were speaking up. Then I asked myself, is that enough? Do I have a bit more to give? So it was a big decision for me, Ria, to do this. And I had to dig deep and find some sort of, place where I could feel comfortable doing it. So that influenced my decision that, yes, maybe I could.
Well, you're doing a sterling job, darling. I think that people are going to love you. I'm just going to grab some of the chat, then I'm going to ask you another question. Mikey B, I've just done a live stream of Walton on the Naze. Is it Naze? Yeah, Naze. My street, Mikey B Political. So there's a shout out for you, Mikey. Mikey B Political. Check that out. What else have we got? I'm looking for something into context here. I'm just cruising down the chat. Right, guys, if you've got a question for Nanon in the comments, put it in the chat and I'll ask her, okay? But let me just ask you some questions about Ireland for people that don't know about Ireland, right? How many mainstream media channels are there? For people that maybe don't use the internet, don't use it very much, how many channels are there? I think most of us have got about 4 or 5 news outlets. How many news outlets you got in Ireland, Nanon?
We've got about 3 or 4 in the television area. We've got about 3 or 4 as well in the newspaper. And then we have the online versions of those, as everybody else has. But we also have the usual BBC, ITV, Channel 4. They would be part of the free-to-air sort of, well, not free, and we pay licenses, but they would be part of the free-to-air stuff as well. Yeah, mostly the Irish media is owned by, either the state or Dennis O'Brien independent newspapers. So we have very little really, but there's 4.6 million people or 4.8 million people in Ireland at the moment. So we're a very small outfit, really.
No, I get that. And so when people get in, what would you say we've got reputations of old, like the BBC. You go to the BBC or you go to these channel outlets because they're state funded and they're supposedly not biased. I know. But where's the go-to in Ireland? What does that in Ireland now?
Right. Well, the main TV station is, as I mentioned there earlier on, is called RTE, which is Irish for Radio Telefiche. Obviously, Telefiche is Irish for television station. So RTE is the main state-run television station. Then we have newspaper outlets that have online versions, like we have the Irish Times. So the Times would be one of the big ones. We have independent newspapers then, which bring out various editions of local newspapers as well. But RTE is your main one, and the Irish Times and independent newspapers, which is owned by Dennis O'Brien, would be the main outlet.
Okay, so that's where sort of people that aren't as familiar with using the internet and stuff, that's where they go home, they finish their day's work, they go home, they hit RTE. So the general leaning with RTE, have you picked up on the wording? Is it something that would match the BBC? It's just the same kind of outlet, is it, Nan?
Yes, exactly the same, and even more so since Leo Varadkar took office here. He's got together a huge media team of people that have done up all his media. So the general consensus is that RTE would be an outlet for the government. So the RTE carries the government message full on, 100%.
And in a nutshell, say, give me 2 lead points, maybe 3, but say 2 lead points of where what the government's lead message is in Ireland.
Well, of course, we have the Brexit conversation going on, which obviously Ireland would be completely and absolutely part of the EU. We would be the EU cheerleaders. We're flying the EU. We even have movements in Ireland to take down the Irish flag off various council buildings.
Yeah.
And so Ireland is full on EU. So that's the message the Irish people are getting.
Okay, so there's number one. So number one big thing going on from the state-run government-run outlet, which is RTE, is we are pro-EU, we love the EU, we love everything they say. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And the big stories, of course, would be Brexit and the backstop, and where Ireland, how Ireland is going to survive, or with the EU. So it's all from the EU perspective. So they would be anti-Brexit. And you also have to understand with the Irish situation as well, that of our 4 or 5 major political parties, all of them are on the same page with regard to the EU. So just to finish, you can imagine then that the as most newspapers or media would carry, the main views of all the political parties. So if all the political parties are on the EU page, well then that's my point, is that they're carrying various political stories got to do with the various parties. And I'll give you a quick rundown on that if you like as well.
Okay, yeah, no, we do that. You can do that with Dumbbell for the time being. And what would be, what's the underlying? So you've got the main plot, we're pro-EU, we love everything they say, we want to stay in the EU, is the government's propaganda outlet, which is RTE. What are the underlying messages that come with it? Is it just everything pro-EU? And we've got a question in from the chat as well. It says, it's from London Ghost Hunter Nan. What is the Irish people's view on Brexit?
Well, it's very hard to know what the Irish people's view on Brexit is, because all we get is pro-Brexit. So the whole thing, if you were to look at the mainstream media, all you get is pro-Brexit, and we're all supposed to be cheering. Anti-Brexit. Sorry, anti-Brexit. So according to, say, the mainstream, we would all be anti-Brexit, definitely. We want Britain in the EU. But the thing is that, as I said here a couple of times, the people are, their views are not being heard. So we have an Ire-Exit party who's just started up here as well. We also have a new national party as well that has started up, but they're very, very small. So, the Brexit would be a big issue, but cheerleading, Leo, we have Leo cheerleading us. That's all you hear, which is part of the reason, I suppose, why Nanon decided to speak up, maybe just to maybe reflect that there is another vision in Ireland. There are more voices in Ireland than just what you're hearing out there, Ria.
So would you say the smear campaign against culture conservation is as successful as it is in other Western countries in Ireland?
The smear campaign in Ireland against our culture and the people who are trying to get messages across is absolutely horrendous. It is horrendous. We are full on being called every name you can think of that we've come to know. All the isms and the phobias and the obias or whatever, we've been called all of that. And we're not. We're just, and I suppose Ireland has a very, very distinct tradition. We have our own language, we have our own music, we have our own dance, we have our own history. So we're we're known all over the world for being a culture. We have loads of poetry, poets. We have famous writers, famous movie stars, famous actors. We're very much, that's very much our culture. And people all over the world, I mean, I've had messages from, from the States saying that Ireland is their spiritual home and, talking in terms like that, asking us, can you please hang on to it for us, because a lot of the Irish diaspora have hopes to return to Ireland.
Absolutely. So there's a bit of a feel for it there, guys, of what's going on. And a couple more things. So what are the voices of we the people in Ireland? So if someone wanted to check out Ireland, what's going on outside of state-run propaganda outlets like RTE? Where do people go? What are they typing in the net? Where do they go to hear this voice of hope outside of your own?
Okay, well, you're going to have to go to alternative media completely, 100%. There's nothing in mainstream reflecting the voice of we the people in Ireland. However, we have some really, really amazing people that have come forth in the last while. I suppose the needs must thing has kicked in Ireland. We're probably decades behind you guys or behind the States or whatever, but there are here. I'll just give you one. Is Gemma O'Doherty is an amazing journalist. She was a mainstream media journalist, fully qualified investigative journalist in Ireland who lost her job over an article or some investigation she did about police corruption in Ireland. She worked for the Dennis O'Brien media and she lost her job. And she's taken the cudgel. She actually ran for office as well here. And she now has her own YouTube channel. So I go to Gemma O'Doherty. We have another guy called Computing Forever, Dave Cullen, another amazing Irish guy who's out there with really slick YouTube. We have Gran Torino, who goes around Ireland videoing. He does his video broadcasts from, just from the villages, the towns and villages that have no voice. And he's another great Irish YouTuber who's just come online as well. Another great Patriot, Irish Patriot. And we have various other, but it's all online. It's all alternate media, Ria. All of it, 100%.
Totally. Mikey B says Gran Torino is my friend. The adorable Turin. Yay, Dave is a good guy, isn't he? He's a great voice. You've also got John Waters as well, haven't you?
Yeah, John Waters was a journalist as well. He was one of the major journalists, and he would have been contributor to all of those newspapers and RTE and all of those. He's also a writer as well, has written many books. So interviews, he's a voice for Ireland as well.
Okay, so we've got Gran Torino, we've got John Waters, we've got Dave Cullen or Computing Forever. Have I missed anybody?
There are other smaller, like Orla Red or LA or he does some very good videos as well, and it's just a lot of people like that coming online. We have some very good people on Twitter as well who are out there, just doing the research like the rest of us.
Okay, and so I've missed one out, and that's what's the girl's name that got the bullet for running the wrong sort of topic? What's her name?
Gemma O'Doherty.
I wish I could say it like that. Gemma O'Doherty. Okay, so check them out. I know, isn't it? And so we've got that going on. These people that are the voice for culture conservation, are they nuanced in different ways, or are they pretty much the same voice?
No, they are nuanced in different ways, but they're yeah, I would say at the core they're pretty much the same. Gemma would be very much the anti-corruption. She would go for. She does really deep dives into the anti-corruption, and she's actually gone around Ireland as well and done some community. She's done a tour of community centres around Ireland with her anti-corruption banner, which is, basically a big sort of research on follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. So it's all about how the money influences influences decisions being made on the ground and stuff. And she's amazing on that. She's done amazing work on that.
Treacherous ground, I've got to say as well. And Gran Torino, isn't he getting a political party going?
Gran Torino would have covered the IREXIT conference, the first conference of the new IREXIT. He would have interviewed some of the people involved in the IREXIT move and the IREXIT party here. They are now a declared political party. We also have the Nationalist Party, who are not they're not in favour of leaving the EU, but they share all the rest of the viewpoints of the IREXIT party, to cut a long story short. But they're also very small with no coverage.
Okay, perfect. So I'm looking forward to in the future. Regarding Ireland, Dumbbell, have you got any other questions you'd like to ask Nan, as into where to go? Any more questions on Ireland? For me, for one, I am looking for... Noddy says, Nan, are there any TV stations or newspapers folks can trust?
Good question, Noddy. I'd probably say no.
Just the one word. There you go. Just no. Yeah. So it's what we're looking to do with all the show segment times. I'll give you the times in a minute with the hosts. The mission that we're trying to do, that's turning out to be quite difficult, is we're looking to watch the propaganda outlets, i.e. they're state-run, they answer to no one but really the government or the source of the money. And of course, the people who pay for those outlets don't get a say in what's being said at all in any shape or form. So we're going to be looking at those, and we're looking to the language in which they structure their articles. That's going to be in the first segment of each show host section or their slot. So if they've got an hour or 2 hour slot, the first 15, 20, half an hour is going to be taken up with looking at how they write these articles. Because as we well know, our language is being hijacked, and they are slick at this, and people love saying the latest terminology. They just do. If something, nothing burger, deplorable, you name it, people just jump on it like you wouldn't believe. And we're going to be tracking down this language that they use in their articles and pulling it into question and going, what does that mean then? What do you mean by that? Are you sensationalizing this? Is it straight down the line unbiased? And we're going to critique the mainstream media. That is the first segment. Once the show hosts have got this out of the way, then it can become more nuanced. But staying on focus for that first segment is way more difficult than you might think. Dumbbell, have you got any more questions for Nanon before I jump to a song?
I think, Nanon, what would you view as some things we've got to keep a major eye out for, i.e. deep state globalists? I know in my mind the movements and machinations of little Leo Varadkar would be one. Would you say?
Oh yeah, Dumbbell. For sure. Some of the major issues would be the UN Migration Pact with regard to Ireland, and also you can follow Leo Varadkar to find out mostly what's happening in Ireland. I might add there, Ria, as well before that I do have those articles ready, but somehow Dumbbell and I got it the other way around, where we started our chat first. So if you want to go into those articles now, I can do that for you.
Sweetie, yeah, we'll do that. I'm going to give you a bit of a break. Guys, there's Nan on for you, okay? Because I'll chop this up and I'll put this into a separate video for people that are checking out new hosts. We were supposed to have a new host coming in, which is what I've been doing in the background, tippity-tappity on a keyboard. And the show times weren't quite right, so he'll join us probably next week, and that's the Bear, or Ed Jamsky from Canada. We've got Canada coming online in an hour, and I'll just bring up the schedules for you guys in the chat so you know what's going on as well. You will find these in our websites. So these are the timings, okay, for Sunday Long Live Radio. And these are all GMT scheduling times. UK 10 a.m. till 11:30 a.m. Maybe 12. So we'll move that actually. UK 10 till 12 GMT a.m. Australia 12 till 2. Ireland 2 till 4. Canada 4 till 5. USA 5 till 7 p.m. Okay, so there you'll find them on our website as well. If you one of the admin Nightingale drop in our website, you'll find the information that you need there. You'll find links to our chat room, which is where we do the deep drilling. That's where, you know, people are amongst friends. They put ideas out there. They're not going to get cut down because they're not right. We're trying to discover. There's a process of investigation going on. Why is this happening? Because we have lost the media. We've lost investigative media through this new banner called hate speech, which has now been hijacked free speech. So if you're exercising free speech, they're going hate speech, right? So we're going to take a tune and then we're going to come up on the other side. We're going to leave Nan and Bullrock and, Dumbbell to break down this wording in the show. Okay, so we're going to look at the way the mainstream media word this stuff. This stuff to me jumps out at me like you wouldn't believe. Oh, right, okay, so there's another piece of language that's been hijacked. We've got to watch this, guys, because particularly the youngsters, if there's a new catchphrase, mate, they're on it. They are on this thing. And they're not thinking, well, wait a minute. So when you used to type in, here's an example. When you used to type in liberal, you would get the meaning of liberal. When you type in now, it gives you a political answer. The level of NLP going on in our world needs looking at, and we're going to find it in the first segments. So that's the deal, guys. Show formats. The hosts cover this language that the main propaganda outlets are using. Then it becomes nuanced in the later section, okay? Hope that wasn't too much of a waffle. I love you all. This is Rhea Bowen, Sunday Long Live Radio, with the lovely Nanon from Ireland and Dumbbell from Sydney. I love you all. Thanks for hanging in there. We've had loads of technical difficulties, but as we're talking Ireland, I want to bring up a bit of a song from Ireland that I love, and I love this dude as well, even though apparently he's quite stroppy. Moon Dance.
Well, it's a marvelous night for a moon dance, with the stars up above in your eyes. A fantabulous night to make romance neath the cover of October skies. You know, the leaves on the trees are falling to the sound of the breezes that blow. You know, I'm trying to please to the calling of your heartstrings that play soft and low. You know, the night's magic seems to whisper and hush. You know, the soft moonlight seems to shine in your blush. Can I just have one more moon dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? Well, I wanna make love to you tonight. I can't wait till the morning has come. And I know now the time is just right, and straight into my arms you will run. And when you come, my heart will be waiting to make sure that you're never alone. There and then all my dreams will come true, dear. There and then I will make you my own. And every time I touch you, you just tremble inside. Then I know how much you want me that you can't hide. my love. Can I just make some more romance with you, oh my love?
The ultimate power in the universe.
Hey, it's Mike Phillip from American Rock Radio. You can catch me live 2 to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time or 8 p.m. in the UK every Saturday live on the Genesis Communications Network with my sister across the Atlantic, Rhea Bowe. Check out AmericanRockRadio.com for the latest news from both sides of the 49th parallel. See you there.
Chapter systems are offline.
For today's hits and all-time favorites.
My fellow Americans, in tough economic times like these, you should not go to Las Vegas and blow all your cash to have fun. Come to where the real action is. Washington, D.C. Why pull a lever on a slot machine when you can take a chance and roll the dice on 1/6 of the economy with national health care? Double down on stimulus spending and win big money for your friends back home. Or if you're a really high roller like me, scare the banks and raise taxes right in the middle of a recession. Come on, 7. Crapped out again. But believe me, you can't lose when you're playing with other people's money. Give me another choice. Make that 2. And they have great accommodations and food. You can have Kobe beef every night if you want. And when you leave Washington, they comp you with a fat pension and health care that's out of this world.
Travel provided by Pelosi Airlines. Catch an all-you-can-drink flight anytime you like, 24/7.
So what are you waiting for? Come to where the real action is. Washington, D.C. And leave Las Vegas behind.
New from Class Envy Productions, the people who brought you Obamacare, Cleopatra Obama, and Barry's got a brand new stash. An all-new exploitation picture starring Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, and a cast of millions and millions of unemployed Americans who all got the shaft.
Members of Congress and my fellow Americans, while on vacation, working on my new jobs plan, I realize there are steps we can take right now to improve people's lives. I want to continue to build roads and bridges, protect union jobs, and pay people to sit at home for another year. And every proposal I've laid out will be paid for by our children. There is the man who never never had any other plan except the damn right. He's the cat who won't slow down when the country's going south. From the can you dig it? You see, this cat Barry is one dumb mother.
Shut your mouth.
I'm just talking about Obama.
Oh, okay.
He's not a complicated man, but nobody understands him but his woman.
Michelle.
Barack! Barack!
You didn't eat the apples in your Happy Meal, but I don't want to.
The Shaft, now playing in an economy near you.
You're damn right.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Well, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. 4 that wanna own me, 2 that wanna stone me, 1 says she's a friend of mine. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. Lighten up while you still can. Don't even try to understand. Just find a place to make your stand and take it easy. Well, I'm standing on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, and such a fine sight to see. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know if your sweet love is gonna save me. We may lose and we may win, but we will never be here again. So open up, I'm climbing in. So take it easy. Well, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. Got a world of trouble on my mind. Looking for a lover who won't blow my cover. She's so hard to find. Take it easy, take it easy. Don't let the sound of your own wheels make you crazy. Come on, baby, don't say maybe. I gotta know if your sweet love is gonna save me. Oh, we got it easy. We ought to take it easy.
Your online radio. The new online radio that makes you happy.
Hi, everybody. This is Nanon from Ireland on Sunday Long Live Radio with Rhea Bow, and I'm here with Dumbbell, my co-host for the day. And I'd just like to say hello to everybody in the YouTube live chat as well. Good to see you all there. I'm just going to bring, I'm here to just bring a flavour of Ireland and what the Irish media would be running with. And I'm going to lead off there with one story there from the Irish Times, which is about a small village in Ireland that had these migrant detention centres. And the people, the village is called Ruski. It's a small village on the shores of the Shannon. And the story goes that the people in Ruski are not racist. Locals were dismayed at an asylum centre fire in a hotel. The Minister for Justice, Charlie Flanagan, has said that he's deeply concerned following a fire at a former hotel in Leitrim and Roscommon border that was to open as a centre for asylums. There was a fire there at the weekend, and there was all sorts of allegations flying around with regard to this particular article, and it's picked up in other newspapers as well. It was also covered in Gemma O'Doherty's YouTube live chat, the one that I referred to earlier on. So many of the 80 asylum seekers due to come to Ruski, which is the village I referred to there, having experienced conflict and trauma, are vulnerable, said Mr. Flanagan, who's our Justice Minister, adding that it was too soon yet to say when the hotel would be able to reopen. Now, the backstory to that is that obviously that the backstory to all of that involves the migration, the UN Migration Pact, and how it refers to Ireland. Another story there is about the nurses and midwives in Ireland are contemplating going on strike here. And this story goes with a news forum here called the Journal.ie, which we didn't actually mention there in the original runoff there. It's basically assessing the support for the nurses and midwives of Ireland. The psychiatric nurses in Ireland are also considering going out on this. Basically, lack of resources as opposed to money. And sorry, sliding away from me. Nurses and midwives. Sorry, that story is just slid. I'll move on to the next.
Okay, let me jump in there. Let me help you out a little bit there, Nan. On that first story there, what was the outlet that it come from?
That was the Irish Times, Ria.
Okay, did you hear that? Okay, Dumbbell, your views on that story that Nan just said?
I think medical staff, excuse me for a minute, I'm having a couple of glitches in my medical staff and fire staff are some of the most valuable assets in the community that we've got. And if you can't pay teachers and nurses and firemen the due amount that they're deserved in terms of the honourable job that they do, where are we as a society? Nurses should not have to go on strike. I spent 3 weeks on my back in a hospital, and I had to check some of those nurses back to make sure there weren't bloody wings on the end. You know, some of these people are sheer bloody angels the way they treat other human beings when you see it in action. They've got the best nature. Professional, yes, but their nature as human beings, nurses are second to none when you've been on the receiving end of it. So it angers me, that story, Rhea.
Yeah, no, I get that. Nan, your thoughts, your opinion on that story that you've just read out?
Yeah, well, the story basically revolves around the lack of resources that the nurses are actually experiencing, which feeds into our health service. You know, obviously with huge stories in Ireland about waiting lists, people on trolleys, the A&E crisis. That's another mainstream story, and you can probably rely on them very much to report accurately on that. But it's a major issue, and it's also, you know, the lack of funding for services, basically, which feeds into, you know, a lot of other countries as well are suffering from the same thing. But the pressure is now so great that, you know, when nurses and psychiatric nurses and midwives are threatening a strike, it's pretty serious, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Do you feel that this feeds into people's discontentment with the immigration policies that are out of their control. So when we see things like nurses having to go on strike, firemen, you know, people that put their lives on the line, not being able to pay their way, but yet they let loads of people in, but they don't talk to us about infrastructure modifications, the economy that they're going to modify to allow for these people coming in. Do you feel that that feeds into the tension involved around migration as well?
Yeah, exactly, Rhea. That's the reason I picked that story, because we already have a huge crisis in this area, and they're not marrying up the immigration story with the crisis that we do.
Yeah, they're inviting other people into the backyard, and they've just not sorted out the backyard, I don't believe. Dumbbell, your thoughts on this?
Oh, I think there's a lot of things going on in Belfast. I'm going off track a wee bit, but I just read this story. Low wages and austerity spark Belfast yellow vest protest. But there's a bit of NLP going on here too, as I read down the story. I'm just going to read that quickly here. Austerity, poor wages and lack of government at Stormont were among the issues raised at a yellow vest protest in Belfast on Saturday afternoon. Inspired by the Gilets Jaunes movement in France, up to 200 mainly left-wing activists gathered outside City Hall for what they said was a stand against elites, injustice in society, the perils of capitalist system and the policies choice of government, British government. People Before Profit Belfast West MLA Jerry Carroll said people were concerned about the destruction of the NHS welfare reform and the lack of marriage equality for LGBT couples and women's reproductive rights. He said in France, people had stood up against President Emmanuel Macron, once the darling of the liberal elite, so we can take on these issues here. It sends a powerful message, he said. And Mr. Carroll believes those on the right wing of politics who have organised a yellow vest protest in Belfast for next Saturday must not be allowed to own and exploit the movement. So there's a little bit of hijacking going on here and trying to control the narrative big time. It is important the left is here today, he said. We are not conceding this ground to the right. Trade unionist activist Fergal McCann from Belfast said he was concerned about austerity wage levels and lack of political leadership apathy among the public. It looks like there's a little bit of get into the yellow vest movement for the left wing in Belfast before the actual yellow vest movement, what it traditionally stands for, begins to apply next Saturday. They're trying to hijack the narrative here, I think. What's your thoughts on this, Nanon?
Yeah, the yellow vest movement is rising in Ireland as well, but it has been hijacked by a lot of it has been hijacked as well by the left, the People Before Profit and Sinn Féin political parties here. But I have a direct translation of the yellow vest movement. Do you remember that iconic yellow vest we had coming up on the Twitter, where they had the yellow vest with all of their demands written on it? Well, a French person did a fantastic translation of that for me personally, which was brilliant. And it does cover a lot of these issues that were actually the stories we're picking here from the mainstream media are they're the manifest of what's happening. You know, they cover all these areas like health and the banking sector, society, you know, the political system and all of that. But it's just the way they're done. If you want me to go through a few more stories, I can.
Well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I take it at the moment. There's so many concentric circles in this truth movement where people are somewhat facing each other and gabbling and squabbling a little bit, where if we just accepted each other's differences a little bit more and faced the true enemy, the globalists, it would stand well for us, I think. What do you feel?
Yes, exactly. And it's the reading of the language. You're right there as well. It's just the mainstream, and then there's the reading into it. I'll just run here with another story we have from one of our main crime reporters, mainstream crime reporter, Paul. He's working now for RTE, and he's run with a story there on RTE about the Irish who are fighting for the Irish who are fighting for ISIS. And he runs there with Hassan Bal is locked up in an Irish prison. The 26-year-old is the first and so far the only person to be convicted of financial terrorist activities of the so-called Islamic State. Originally from the UK, he came to Ireland when he was 12 years old and lived in Wexford before moving to Waterford in 2000. While training to become an electrician, Hassan Bal was also collecting and sending money to the terrorist organisation. On the 2nd of October 2015, he transferred 400 euro via An Post, which is the Irish Postal Service / Western Union, to a man in Braco in Bosnia-Herzegovina, knowing the money would be used to fund ISIS.
Not the sharpest knife in the drawer, is he?
Yeah, well, that goes into another major article that was carried this weekend by just a second.
Oh, there's so much happening. I mean, you think they use Hawala a lot, don't they? Why he didn't go the Hawala route and just deposited the cash up? Well, you know what I mean. How sleight of hand, the ultimate wireless transfer, Hawala. Get it today.
How you doing, Nan? You got the story?
Yeah, I'm looking for the story.
Okay, no worries. If you're just joining us, this is Rhea Boat, just outside London. We've got Nan on in Ireland, and we've got Dumbbell in Sydney. We're just running up, and this is Nan's first time on the radio. To our radio affiliates, welcome, my friends. Yes, we've had a day plagued with technicals, which seems to be somewhat the norm these days, but this was particularly bad today. I hope you're enjoying the show. Put some questions in the chat if you want us to read them out. We're happy to do it. It's no problem at all. And Nan, have you got the story there?
No, I don't have that story. That story was about the Irish passport holder who was lifted in fighting for ISIS. A major profile done. I have it on the actual newspaper here in front of me. You know, there was a huge spread by the Irish Times this weekend on this person. So I'll take the story from there. It seems to have slid away from me online, but I have the story here anyway. It was a centerpiece, one of these major features that run in the center pages of our main newspaper, the Irish Times.
Okay, I'm going to jump in there. We're going to take a bit of the chat whilst obviously you got a few technical things to do there. For those guys at home, this is quite difficult to do, to get all the stories up, all the chat rooms and everything. There's a bit of tech involved, you know, and we've got one in from Chippy T. Hey, Chippy T, thanks for joining us on Sunday Long Live Radio. Thanks for your question. Chippy T says... and I'm going to throw this over to you as well, Nan and Dumbbell. Chippy T says, who thinks May's deal will go through on Tuesday? My view, two hopes, Bob Hope and No Hope. No chance. It's what will happen after is probably the ramification of that. Nan, do you think it will go through or not?
I'm not sure, Rhea. I reckon it won't go through. And... I reckon she's on her last chance here, and I reckon it won't go through. I'd be very surprised if it did.
I go resounding no. I don't think it will go through, and I think it could be part of the plan. But if everybody holds fast and waits till you see the whites of their eyes, you'll get a no Brexit. You'll get a no deal Brexit, and there'll be a big whopping fat trade deal with America waiting for you, I feel.
God, I wish I was that optimistic. I love that sort of internal optimism. So for me as well, in answer to your question, Chippy T, I don't see it. I reported on it yesterday. We did our first broadcast on American Uck Radio through the Washington DC radio transmitter, which we was very excited about, as you can imagine. And this question came up, and I'll say today what I said yesterday. I don't think there's any hope of that going through. The next couple of days, we're going to see scaremongering on a whole new level. So for those who don't know, this is what's going on. They've been in negotiations in the House of Commons. It hasn't gone well already. On Tuesday, they have to vote. If they don't come back with that vote, Theresa May gets 72 hours to put something else across the table. If that fails, then we're going to see, well, all through this, we're going to see the anti-Brexit campaign step up in a big way. So if you're listening from outside the UK and you are a bit of a news junkie, the UK is where to watch next week for this story. The biggest story in the UK right now is Theresa May's deal. Will it go through or not? Watch this space. It'll be as we've said, get your popcorn because there's going to be loads of stuff to look at. We've also got Chippy T says, unfortunately they are all cowards and I can see them selling out. I agree, Chippy T. Elizabeth Taylor, if it goes through, there will be trouble ahead. I agree, Elizabeth, and thank you for your support with us financially as well. It's much appreciated. London Ghost Hunter, if she gets a deal, then democracy will be no more. It's a pseudo-democracy. We are teetering on the edge of the black hole of a pseudo-democracy, and we all know it, don't we? Chippy T says they're all cooked. Elizabeth Taylor, yip. May's days are numbered. Elizabeth, they are, I think. Night and Day Plumbing Solutions says Theresa May hasn't got a prayer in getting the deal past the Parliament. She's got more chance of winning the lottery without a ticket. I'm on about the same wavelength as well. Night and Day. London Ghost Hunter. It's, I don't know what that says. No deal or no country. Oh, that's damning, isn't it? Chippy T, if they extend Article 50, they'll be in trouble either way. I think it does not look good. Absolutely, Chippy T. Elizabeth Taylor, no deal Brexit. She's shouting out. Joe Powell, hopefully she will resign before next step. Cool, you'll be lucky, Joe. Don't hold your breath. Elizabeth Taylor, my pleasure, Rhea. Thank you, Elizabeth. It's much appreciated. Guys, Nanon, your comments of what I've just read out in the chats.
Yeah, Rhea, the journal.ie is running there with a story just updated 3 hours ago on that issue. Anything.ie, by the way, is always Irish. So just so you... So the journal.ie is another one that you can tap into. That reads, the British Prime Minister Theresa May has warned MPs that failing to back her Brexit deal could be catastrophic and an unforgivable breach of trust in our democracy. May's comments are part of a last-ditch effort to get support for the draft withdrawal agreement for her government has struck with the European Union. And as you said there, the House of Commons is set to vote on the deal on Tuesday. So we'll all be looking out for the result of that.
Absolutely. I'll grab a couple more comments. Peyton Smith. Hey, Peyton, how are you doing? Peyton says, nope. I think there's no chance of her deal happening. Agree with Dumbbell on a trade deal with the US in the aftermath. Totally off topic, but I'll take it anyway. Mr. Mensa says 788/790 Finchley Road should be the biggest story. There you go. Billions of UK taxpayers' money laundered into overseas accounts by fake companies. Blair / Cameron and many others involved. Mr. Mensa says ex-RAF Gordon Bowden has exposed it all. So there's something to check out, guys. Gordon Bowden, for those on audio, Bowden. Chippy T, Yellow Vest protests will increase. They will. We are teetering on the edge of this, and I think we need to get behind it personally. Paul Starmer, sorry, Paul. I'm surprised no one has started a string vest movement yet. What, with a handkerchief on your head down on Clacton-on-Sea or something, old school, all that kind of stuff. Totally, guys. Yeah, the UK it's big for the UK in this next week. And they are winding up the scaremongering. It's going to come at us full tilt. And it's going to be a great time to be in the news game, to watch the mainstream media outlets. That is the voice for the government, isn't it? And what's behind the government, which we're all quite intrigued with because we don't really know. And one of the situations with globalism as well is we have no say in it. It's all being taken out of our hands, much like the UN. And we have to look to our own sovereign state and go, hey, what deal are you doing with the UN then? Why aren't you telling us? And the Green Knight, hey Green Knight, I fear that 2019 is going to be a very turbulent year in Britain. Here, Green Knight. We've got loads of stuff coming up. So let's get some more news over from Ireland. Nanon, what else have we got going on in Ireland in the mainstream?
Well, just want to finish up there on that story you're doing there at the moment, Ria, about the Irish situation with regard to this backstop that's on the journal. So from that point of view, which feeds into the Tuesday result, I suppose, in December, May postponed a vote on the draft withdrawal agreement so she could seek additional assurances on the backstop element of the deal. Many politicians have raised concerns about the backstop, which aims to avoid a hard border between the Republic and Northern Ireland, and could see the north of Ireland stay aligned to some EU rules. The Democratic Unionist Party, now they're the Northern Ireland party that's actually propping up May's minority government, believes that the backstop threatens the United Kingdom and could lead to a trade border in the Irish Sea. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar and his EU counterparts have repeatedly said the deal cannot be renegotiated. So during the week, Varadkar said a proposal for Stormont to have a veto over the conditions attached to the backstop would not be accepted. So preparations are being made at British, Irish and European level for a no-deal Brexit in case the agreement is not reached ahead of the official withdrawal date of the 29th of March. So that just gives the Irish perspective there, where we have Varadkar full on EU. We have the Democratic Unionist Party, which are propping up May's minority government and holding hostage here with regard to the position of the north of Ireland, which is under the UK jurisdiction post this no-deal Brexit.
Dumbbell.
Yes.
He's there. You're not shearing sheep, are you?
G'day, mate. I don't shear my sheep. Leave mine alone.
Your views on what Nanon just read out?
Look, I think that Theresa May has been taking writing instructions back from the EU, back to London. From the onset, she's their girl. And this pitiful character you see twisting in the wind in the gibbet at the moment is a member of the EU, slung up in front of Britain, 17 billion worth of British intent. And she's not faring too well, so I have no sympathy for her or her agenda. She's a cunning one. She'll twist it around every law, every nook and cranny, every hidden occult meaning of law and order she can to try and slip what's not good for you to you and make you, and they will try, her minions will try, but I don't think they'll hold up. I think set your jaw and say no, take a hike in any rude way you want to. German vernaculars are okay, and I think it's all going to be good. I think this is not only a monumental time for Britain, this is a monumental time for the planet and a monumental time for our movement's fight against, I don't want to call it the Illuminati, I'll call it the cabal and the globalists. And then again, it's not the CIA, it's not the FBI, it's not America as such. It's a dirty, deep, dark, evil snake that twists through all of these things that needs to be taken nut and bolt down and kicked back into Brussels. If it's exploded, innocent people will get hurt. It needs to be disassembled and kicked back there. Anyway, back to you, Rhea.
Yeah, I'm going to throw that over to Nanon. Your thoughts on Dumbbell's comments?
Yeah, it's very interesting to get the perspective of somebody in Australia. And fair dues to Dumbbell for getting his head around the complexities of the actual shenanigans that's going on with regard to this Brexit. So, I mean, it is difficult for people in the mix to get their heads around. So it's fair dues to Dumbbell for getting his head around.
Absolutely. And I think when Dumbbell comes in and says, I remember when you first said it as well, Dumbbell, that when you said, I think Theresa May is going back to Brussels, not to negotiate, but for guidance. Do you know what? I'm with you, darling. I'm with you 100%. I think that is exactly what's going on. She's always been a Remainer. And I think she goes over there and goes, "Hey, Jean-Claude," and then Jean-Claude comes back and says this.
Yes.
Hey, Jim.
Oh no, not that one. Oh, it's gone. Here it is, and he says this.
President Juncker, the Brexit saga looks no closer to being resolved. Are you concerned?
I am through, Hugh. It is like seeing your child in a play. You have to sit there and watch as they mess everything up. And just when you think it's over, it keeps going. Blah.
Do any of this week's events change anything for you?
Nothing is changing. It does not matter if it is May, if it is the floppy Boris one, if it is the posh one who looks like a big otter. I'm sick of the hoo-ha.
Finally, just to be clear, you said you wouldn't renegotiate, but clarification is possible. What does that mean?
You want to know what clarification means? Okay, here's what I do. I will put my face right up to hers. I will look her dead in the eyes, and I will say, "Can you not hear the words that come out of my mouth? Are you hard of the hearing? Am I a little cuckoo bird going cuckoo, cuckoo? We will not renegotiate. Now, excuse me, I am going to do something I find more enjoyable, like, I don't know, beating myself on the head with a waffle iron. Anything but Brexit. Good day to you.
And there you go, there's Juncker on it. Do you know why he's got that strong position? Because he's got people inside. And I really do think that Theresa May is one of them, you know. I think she goes over there, gets advice, comes back and says, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get the Commons to agree? I think that's the conversation. She's not going over there going, "Hey, Mr. Luxembourg bankster, this is what the deal is." We've just got the wrong person in there doing the job. Okay, guys, we've got a couple of minutes. We're going to take a tune, then we're going to take the last segment from Ireland to find out what's going on. I hope you're enjoying the show. This is Riabo just outside London, Nanon in Ireland, and Dumbbell in Sydney, bringing you Nanon's first show. We'll be back after this. And that's knackered.
Diamond line, lover
Number one means you're always on top. Your number one radio.
Hey, guys, we're back. How you doing? This is Rhea Bowen, Sunday Long Live. I hope you're having a lovely day. Yes, hello to our new radio affiliates. We're going to pick up with Nanon in Ireland for the next and last latest story. Nan, what's going on in Ireland for your mainstream article?
All right. Well, I just chose to go with an YouTube video that Stephen Molyneux has just come out in Ireland. He's one of the analysts that does crunches the figures. So I might go with that one, Rhea, for the last piece of the show.
That's fine, darling. Off you go.
Yeah, because I mostly want people to go and watch the video. It's just a new one that just come out, and he specifically talks about Ireland, which is really great for us because it gives a bit of a focus on Ireland. So and just to mention there that Leo Varadkar has this program called Ireland 2040. Now we know about Agenda 2030, the UN United Nations Agenda 2030. But Leo has gone with Ireland 2040, so he's outdoing himself there. So Stephen Molyneux picks up on this, and he goes, Ireland's 2040 is a 25-year Irish government planning document, which it is, which aims to import countless migrants into Ireland, largely from Africa. And that's true because we know that already. So Stephen Molyneux, the host of Freedom Domain Radio, unpacks the horrifying social engineering at work in this plan, and details the effects of mass migration on Ireland so far. He calls it horrifying social engineering. That's his words, not mine. And just a little bit more on it there. By 2040, we know that Ireland will be home to an additional 1 million people. So we're at 2019 now, so you can do the math there, an additional 1 million people. We will need at least an extra 600,000 jobs and 500,000 homes in the middle of a massive housing crisis. 20 years ago, we were a country of 3.5 million people. By 2040, we'll be 6 million. Together with Northern Ireland, our island will have a population of about 8 million by 2040. Between now and 2040, our small but dynamic country will have to cope with enormous changes in social, economic, cultural, and environmental issues. So they're all covered there. The UN Agenda 2030 issues are all covered there. Social, economic, cultural, and environment. Watch out for those areas. For example, the number of people over 65 will more than double by then. Half the jobs that people will work at in 2040 may not even exist today, and we're likely to be facing increased environmental and climate pressures. There's your climate for you. So I'll just actually come in there very quickly as well, just to tell people that after the 2008 crisis, we lost a lot of our young people through the collapse of the economy. So a lot of younger and very older Irish people were left. There's not a family in Ireland that doesn't have the youngsters abroad. And I'm not going to go into anything personal there either. But our youngsters are abroad. They're qualified, highly qualified, skilled in the trades people. And we're exporting them, and then we're importing migrants. So you can piece that. So I think I'll just open it up there. There's more to that article, but just to call attention there, Stephen Molyneux's latest article, Ireland 2040. Very interesting.
Okay, I'll jump in there, and that's Stefan Molyneux for those not understanding Irish. Dumbbell, your thoughts on this?
Oh, it's let it find its own gravity. Immigration and people finding jobs. These globalists are just using a natural thing and pumping it full of steroids and using it as a weapon and throwing it against the shores of innocent countries to create socio pressure and countries that haven't got enough work and industry left as a sovereign nation. It's all gone offshore to China because of the almighty dollar and the effect of marketing. So I believe that countries have got to get their own manufacturing base back before they start employing their own kids and children that already live in these countries and have a firm situation of employment before they start throwing thousands of migrants up into the employment factor. If there's enough room and these people haven't got as their prime intent killing you in the name of their belief pattern, there's a lot of good people out there that need new homes. But at the same time, these people have got to understand this isn't just I'm going to bring Tunisia with me. This is you assimilate. You come here and you'll be Gora Irish within a year or two, mate. And that's your job because you love the country that's housing you and you respect it for what it's giving you. And you don't cart your rubbish and your politics and your death cult here, no matter where you're going. It's not a matter of the color of your skin or even your history. It's a matter of your present, now, in the moment attitude. And that's flooding Ireland, and it's going to flood Canada, and it's going to flood Australia, the Commonwealth countries. Look, it's not about the person's color of the skin, black, white, or brindle. It's about what's in their heart. And unfortunately, there's a sector of immigrants that are coming over that have got very black hearts. Over to you, Rhea.
Yeah, Nanon, I'll put that over to you. You've got to have something to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about it. You know, we sort of push the envelope out a bit, and the stories I've picked today feed into that, where the people are bewildered as to what's behind all of this. And I think that's the main focus. We hope that the black picture that's being painted is not going to happen. I mean, we find it almost incredible that our representatives could be actually collaborating with such a dark future for Europe and for Ireland in particular, such a small little country. We would hope that they wouldn't be collaborating with the dark picture, and that some shining light might be there. But I'm not seeing it, Rhea. I have to say, I'm on the lookout for some type of logic or reasoning or benevolent outcome to all of this. And so far, I'm not seeing it, but I will keep looking.
You're a star, Nanon. Right, we've come up to the end of the segment. You've been here. This is Sunday Long Live Radio. It's Sunday is Long and is live. And that was Nanon's very first hosting a show, guys. I think she's done great. We're going to be working on slicking it up in the background with all the hosts. This will be a pretty slick thing by the time we're done with it. But there you go. You're getting an idea of who Nan is. You're getting an idea of who Dumbbell is, Silo. And next up, we've got Canada coming online with Bull Rock. I'll be hosting it with Bull Rock because Ed couldn't make it today because there was a confusion in world times. It's more easily done than you might think. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm watching your comments go round, and KH from Canada says, sterling hard work IP legacy to maintain status quo seems to be why. Great comment, KH. Good to see you in the chat there, my darling. I hope you're healthy and well, and your tribe. Totally. I mean, when we the people don't feel that we have any say anymore, we're then in a dictatorship, whether they tell you it's a democracy or whatever. When you just feel that you have no longer any say on what's going on, you're in whatever you want to call it, but it's not a democracy. Although And another thing going back, a couple of years ago, when those big media companies were being bought and those conglomerates were merging together, people created a lot of fuss, but it didn't change anything, did it? They still merged. And that's why people like ourselves, Sunday Long Live Radio, are here because there's a need for it. It's the natural market flow. It really is. People want to know what's going on, and they have lost trust in the mainstream media. That's what's going on. I want to give a big thank you to Nanon. I want to give a big thank you to Dumble as well, because they're going to close out. We're going to bring Bull Rock on after this one. Nanon, do you want to give some final comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks everybody for listening to me today. And I've been watching the YouTube live chat, not enough, but I will watch it in the future. And thanks for the support.
There you go. And Dumbbell, your finals.
Oh, it's great. I just love talking to people here and knowing there's other people out there that think the same, and also people that might be listening out there that are just scratching their chin and thinking, I'll look into a couple of these things a little bit more in my own time, and that's good. That's our job then is done, I think, is to maybe put these things up for you to peruse and make your own determination on. And the world's a blimmin' good place. It's not all horrible with these oppressive, nasty oligarchs trying to control us as much as they were. 216 was a huge turning point. They're really, they've got their jaws dropped at the moment. They're in a bit of state of shock. They're not going to recover from this easy at all, I don't think. So I think this week will be a really telling one. Watch the news, get the popcorn, and buckle up. And thanks a lot. You guys are awesome.
There you go, guys. Oh, sorry,
Bye,
now.
everybody. Just want to say bye, everybody.
No problem. Okay, guys, there you go. We're going to be bringing Bull Rock on. We'll bring you another tune. We're going to take it upbeat a tad, a bit of a beat behind it. So I just want to get the comments for the people just on audio. And London Ghost Hunter, she's a nice lady. Hope she's on every Sunday. For more, the merrier. Big thumbs up for Nanon there. Night and Day says, Nanon, well done. Great first show. Peyton Smith, yes, Ria, he says, excellent show, Nanon. Bull Rock. Enoch, so the adequate, Enoch's doing Israel. London Ghost Hunter, mainstream media is a joke. Mikey, Nanon, it's been a pleasure. You, LCB, if that, no, that's all out of context. Qbot, great show, Ria, DB, and Nanon. Thank you, Qbot. Any other thank yous in there? Because I'd like Nanon to be able to hear them. Noddy, great show, guys. Loving it. LCB, 10 out of 10 for Nanon. There you go. So we've got some lovely positive feedback. And I think that's about it. Right, we're going to take a tune and we'll be back with Canada Online in the form of Bull Rock. Back after this.
How to tantalize. She's out to get you, danger by design. Cold-blooded vixen, she don't compromise. She's something mystical and color lights. So far from typical, but take my advice. Before you play with fire, do think twice. And if you get burned, don't be surprised. Lifted, drifting higher than the ceiling. Ooh, baby, it's the ultimate feeling. You got me lifted, feeling so gifted. Sugar, how you get so fly? Sugar, how you get so fly? Ooh, sugar, how you get so fly? Hey, sugar, how you get so fly? Ooh, sugar, how you get so fly? You and tight, sugar with just the right She's something mystically color lights. I say, so far from typical, but take my advice. Before you play with fire, do think twice. And if you get burned, well, baby, don't you be surprised. Lifted, drifting higher than the ceiling. Ooh, baby, it's the ultimate feeling. You got me lifted, feeling so gifted. Sugar, how you get so fly?
Is now the ultimate power in the universe.
You're fortunate enough to be listening to Sunday Long Live Radio. Live all day, every Sunday. Check out the website below.
Chapter systems are offline.
Number one for today's hits and all-time favorites.
Hey, lovelies, we're back. We've got Bullrock online. We're going to find out what's going on in Canada. Hey, David, how you doing? Thank you lovelies, for being in the chat. I hope you're enjoying the tunes. Wow, have we had our fair share of technicals today. Seems to be the norm, but today was well above average. I've got to say, I want to say hey to the radio affiliates. If you're still hanging in there, thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for your comments in the chat as well. Let's bring in Bullrock. Bullrock, what's the biggest stories in the mainstream media, your end?
Well, today I've gone through a few things. I've had to update this list, but first and foremost on my list is there's apparently a suspicious Ottawa bus crash, killed 3 people, injured about 20 others. I'm going to be discussing that a little bit with some input on why it is important for the media to just plainly and normally report the news. Winnipeg cops made $1 million meth seizure. That is their largest one this year. And this one hits me a little close to home because the biggest cities in Manitoba where I live, Winnipeg and Brandon, are undergoing a very serious mental health and addictions crisis, and methamphetamine is at the top of our list. CBC actually penned an article honestly highlighting the Canadian Yellow Vests. It was a surprising breadth of objectivity from them. I will be going into that a little bit. CBC is known for obfuscation and sophistry. Not this time, though. I'm actually kind of impressed. And I'm going to discuss alternative health because we have a MyoFix clinic opening locally in Brandon where I live. And I'm probably going to reiterate the importance of alternative and natural medicine, and possibly give another shout out to Dr. Glidden of Glidden Healthcare. We haven't had him on the show lately a while, Rhea. I kind of miss him. Back over to you, Rhea.
I know. You'll find Dr. Glidden and Mike Phillip, our lovely Mike, my brother over there in Canada, on Patreon. Look for Dr. Glidden in Patreon and you'll find their subscription-based show that they do. So you'll be able to find it there as well. Now, I hear what you're saying. We can probably get him on Sunday Long Live at some point, but it's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be getting what we've got working properly first before we add any more, because it's a long stream and there's still work to be done, but I didn't think that it would happen that quickly. So I'm really happy with the way it's going. It's a big task to undertake and get it real slick, but it's all cool though. You know, London Ghost Hunter says, hey Rhea, when's the next Brexit march? I think it'll be pretty soon, if I think what happens next week in the House of Commons. Right, that mainstream article that you had, Marty, what's the read on that? What's going on? Have you seen any LPG, any NLP? Have you seen any hijacking of language in the way they've written it? What's going on with that?
Just give me a second to fire it up here. I didn't really see too much in the way of hijacking the language, and that's the one thing that stuck out as impressively the most. The particular author of this article made it very clear that there are radicals within the Yellow Vests. There are anarchists, such as the white supremacist version of the alt-right, such as other globalist neoconservative types, typical, what the leftist media would describe as knuckle-dragging Trumpers. But then they also pointed out that there's a lot of hardworking, blue-collar Canadians who have just become disillusioned and disappointed in the Canadian LPC government and their very questionable and nonsensical green agenda. I got a bit more on that as well, because we also have an incoming meat tax from the wonderful Catherine McKenna, which I intend to tie all this together today on today's show. Back to you, Rhea.
Yeah, that's great, my friend. Right, off you go. Let's sit back and listen so we can find out what's going on in the mainstream in Canada.
Well, so far in Canada, that's all I got for the time being on my notes. I added the Ottawa bus crash because, unlike that CBC article I pointed out, that one was dripping with those hidden language cues and signs of obfuscation. I will explain that later. I think I know why. I'm going to apply Occam's razor to it, because there was an accident. There was one witness that claims that the bus slipped on ice, ran into a bus stop, and killed 3 people, 1 on the platform and 2 on the bus, and injured, nearly nearly 2 dozen others. Now, what I want to caution here is if people are going to obfuscate the issues, withhold information, they need to understand that we have anons, we have conspiracy theorists, we have all types and stripe in the alternative media. And if they want us to be on their case, this is how you do it. Don't tell the truth, hide facts, and make things look like they're not being told with integrity. Now back to Occam's razor, it very much looks like this driver who probably slipped up, made a mistake. The police did arrest her. They did release her. And the police usually do this to people who do not pose a threat to the public. Normally, they'd understand it's a promise to appear in court. They slipped up and they're not going to be anywhere. They're not a flight risk. But without describing these things in the article and without going over some of these points in reference to Occam's razor or what makes common sense look good, we're going to do it, and we are automatically going to assume the worst. Like, this is a message from the mainstream media, from all of us here. We do not trust you. We have caught you with your pants down, and we have caught you red-handed. We are doing this on our own because we do not trust you. You have lost the plot, and we are seeking the plot. And every time we see the indicators of obfuscation and a cover-up, we are going to act, because you have shown us this is the most prudent course of action to get to the truth. This is your doing. This is your handiwork, mainstream media. This is not our fault. We are reacting to the hand you have dealt us. And if you don't like it, you should have given us better cards, and you should not have stacked the deck in the first place. Back to you, Rhea.
Yeah, I was speaking about it earlier. This is a symptom. This is a reaction to an action. They took the action, didn't they, that we're going to be so biased because we think we've got away with it for so long, and we just think we're okay. We've lost touch with the working class people, we the people. They've just lost touch with them. We're going to run these stories regardless of what you say. The politicians have forgot that they work for us, or supposedly work for us. The mainstream media have been bought, and they're just a mouthpiece, left-wing propaganda outlets. Some not so much right-wing, but it's so they are so focused on hijacking the language, and it's where we need to be right now, to keep an eye on these mainstream outlets so we understand. When you meet somebody on the street and you're thinking, how did you arrive there? And that's why, because we're not watching what the mainstream, because we've lost trust in them. We don't want to view what they're doing. Well, I plan to fix that. We're going to get all the hosts on the first segment to cover those mainstream things, mainstream stories during the week, and find out what kind of language they're using, to see And I, for one, am willing to give them an opportunity to redeem themselves. But until we watch them and watch what they're doing before we go into nuanced stories, we need to watch what they're doing, because I'm hearing language, more modified language every day, and people aren't really picking up on it, that they're just being drawn into this black hole and they're being taken control of, because the old saying is, you control the information, you control the people. Your thoughts, Borak?
That is exactly my sentiments, exactly. Growing up, reading George Orwell, then later on discovering Saul Alinsky, they both said the same thing. You control the language and you control what people read and listen to. It is all about the media and it is all about the education system. If you hijack the media and you hijack a language, you eventually will hijack thought. That is my thoughts on it.
Absolutely. And we've got it going on, and we're going to be busy rehearsing in the background with the show host guys to get this thing tuned in, to make sure that you get, when you tune in, I'm going to go through the show times again. So remember, these show times that I'm about to read out are in GMT. The times are going to work like this on Sunday Long Live Radio. 10 a.m. UK to 12 p.m. UK is going to be me on for the UK. Then we're bringing the Aussie boys on from midday to 2 p.m. GMT. They're going to give us what the mainstream media in their first segments are doing in Australia. Then we're going to bring Nanon on from Ireland to cover what's going on there from 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. GMT. Then we're going to bring Bullrock on with the lovely Ed, or I'm calling the Bear, the Grizzly. He's going to be coming on with Bullrock between 4 and 5 p.m. And the USA are coming online between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. All hosts are going to be covering what the mainstream media, a week in the mainstream media's NLP. That's where we're going with it, guys. And then once we've covered the mainstream, then we'll go to nuanced stories that I know a lot of you already know about. Right, let's take some of those stories from you, Bullrock, when you're ready.
All right, I'm ready right now with the one about the CBC article, the CBC columnist who penned an objective article for it. In their analysis column dated yesterday, or 2 days ago on Friday, January 11th, you will see an article, an opinion piece, a column from Elizabeth Hams. Do not dismiss them as crackpots who are Canada's yellow vest protesters. She later goes on to describe, she goes through the whole sophistry of it. Some may support the Make Alberta Great Again. Some protesters may stand at the podium shouting conspiracy theories. No point in making all those beautiful signs if nobody gets to see them. There's a whole lot here. She's calling out people who take to the streets to protest, people shouting out wild theories about things that they don't trust. Again, going back to the first commentary of the article I made this morning, these conspiracy theories come when the narrative is so ridiculous, no one believes it. I can highlight 9/11, and I can also highlight the assassination of John F. Kennedy in the U.S. I believe that was in the early 60s. The reason we have conspiracy theories is because the government does these things, covers these things up, gets the media in on it, and lies to the people directly. We would not have that if we didn't have this going on. She later goes on to cite university political scientist Chaldeans Mensah, who claimed the protests are fueled by concerns that governments are just ignoring the concerns of ordinary citizens. Well, that is quite obvious. We have this as a problem, and we've had this as a problem since 2008 and 2011 by my estimations, and the reason we are here doing what we do today is because of this. Trudeau is obviously the target. I mean, this is a well-written column. I'm scrolling down. Not only is the column very concise, it seems to be ordered in what appears to be an Orwellian prose. I mean, this is what journalism should be. And why can't CBC do this all the time? This isn't hard. I have no formal training, and I blow their average away. This is what we should expect from individuals like Elizabeth Hams and CBC News. I got to give props to where it's due, and I rarely give props to CBC, but here it is. All right, the next article, the Winnipeg cops make $1 million meth seizure. And this is really important to me because I'm affiliated with the Brandon Bear Clan locally in my area, Brandon, Manitoba. And we are conducting Bear Clan patrols, not just in Brandon. The Bear Clan itself started off in Winnipeg. And I think it is really attached to the grassroots version of the Idle No More and Truth and Reconciliation spirit, you know, not the ones that were about blocking oil pipelines or green energy agendas, which does do nothing but destroy Aboriginal communities anyways, the same way it destroys the nation of Canada. But these people were concerned about the missing and murdered women who get tied into prostitution, who get tied into highly risk-averse lifestyles. And the movement was hijacked by Tides Canada and guess who? George Soros. So it is good to see that this spirit is still very much alive in Canada. The Brandon Bear Clan has been on this for a long time, and it looks like we're finally making some headway with the justices of the peaces and magistrates locally in Brandon and Winnipeg. They just can't ignore us. I mean, we wear yellow, like the Bear Clan Patrol wears the yellow vest as well. And they do this to mark themselves. They give food out to the homeless and the food out to those out in the cold. They should be supported. Just Google the Bear Clan Patrols in Canada if you can, and show them some support. Or even if you're in Winnipeg, Brandon, or any of these trouble cities with methamphetamines, feel free to donate some time in the evenings and go out and walk with them. It's not strictly for Aboriginals. There's white people I know who do this in Brandon, and they would welcome anybody who just wants to help the community. You know what I mean? Back over to you, Rhea. We are at 10:17. You are all listening to Long Live Radio with myself, Bullrock, and I hope you enjoy the show.
There you go, guys. So there you go. There's some good positive words there. We're coming in at you hard. You've got some hard energy going in, but don't forget, spread the love as well, right? Take some time out the rabbit hole. This stuff needs examining. And this fight that we're doing, it's been going on forever, guys. Forever. We were gifted the internet, and this is why we've become, all of us have gone through this massive awakening, haven't we, over the last, decade or so? You see something, you go, well, that can't be true, can it? Have they really been lying to us all along? Well, the mainstream media, if anyone from the mainstream media is listening to this, just think about that. Just think about that. The youngsters aren't getting news from mainstream media, news outlets. That's sort of never gone on. You're a lost cause. If you've lost the olds, you've lost your crowd, really. You're just left with a few that really haven't got the time to examine things. And we're going after them, you know. I'm going to build a radio station that you can have on in the background. There'll never be any swearing. You can have it on with the kids around if you want to. And we're going to go take this because there is a space for it, because we've just lost all trust in them. And in doing that, don't forget to give us some support, guys. If you go to our website, you can do one-off support payments and help us out while I build this out. It's riabo@hotmail.co.uk. You can just send a single payment via PayPal, or you can sign up via Patreon while I build this thing out. I'm not going to let it go, but we just really need some support to do that. Bullrock, a couple of questions for you. In Canada, on the TV station news outlet side, how many mainstream news channels are there that Mr. and Mrs. Nice Person working their butt off can tune into freestyle?
Mainstream news sources, first and foremost, is our public broadcasters, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or CBC. I like to take it out of them because they are very much like the Canadian version of the British Broadcasting Corporation, or BBC, in that they are taking public funds, and they are definitely, and since they are taking public funds, they are violating their tenure to the public as well. They are not telling the truth, and they are hiding the truth if they cannot tell the truth. So there's one right there, but I would probably fact check almost everything that they post. You also have CTV News, one of probably our largest private news entity, affiliated with BCE Enterprises, formerly Bell Canada. They tend to be more objective and honest, but they also play the same obfuscation games as well, particularly when you highlight telecommunications issues and the rot that's going on all over Canada as a result. We also have Global News, which I mark as kind of hit and miss. But regularly, the three there, CBC, CTV, and Global News, as far as I'm concerned, are the top three large mainstream sources. We also have access to Huffington Post Canada. We have the Financial Post and the National Post from Conrad Black, who I would mark as probably the most trustworthy news source from the mainstream on our side. Conrad Black has definitely been someone to stand for honesty and integrity at times, but even then, National Post, sometimes their columnists will go off the rails, but it is refreshing to see them in the comment section get it taken out of them by people who won't have any of it. And that's all I can think of off the top of my head, Rhea. We have a few independent, smaller guys. Local news is something that I would probably have a bit more esteem in as well, like the Ottawa Citizen article I've been reading. Normally, they tend to be more objective and honest, but except with the exception of today. And it's just the roadmap of the news as I see it there. Back to you, Rhea.
Yeah, right. So as I was saying, guys, we're going to catch up. So for me, darling, just tell me what you got. 3 main news outlets. You got CBC. Was it CTV, did you say?
Yeah, CTV. I can't remember what it is, but C kind of comes like City TV or something like that. I don't know if it's spun off of like the Chum City building back in the day. I can't really recall. I just know it is CTV News, and I can't for the life of me remember what the acronym means. Okay. I can probably Google it. Go ahead, Rhea.
That's not a problem, darling. So we've got CBC, CTV. What's the other news outlet that anybody can access when they get home from work?
That would be Global News. They're basically affiliated with a large telecommunications. Like Global is very much like CBS. They do news, they do entertainment, they do all of that. And they're basically like a mainstream syndicated media enterprise that'll cover everything and everything, you know, like I remember my mother used to watch her soap operas like Young and the Restless on Global. Then at 6 o'clock, primetime would come on. They do some news first, and then they go into primetime programming, stuff like that. You know, they try to cover everything.
Okay. Then, sorry. And what else have you got? So we've got CBC, CTV, and Global News, right?
Yes.
So we could do with the headlines at the beginning of your segment where you read out some of those. So just keep your eyes on those, would you? Because people outside Canada don't know stuff like this. I don't know stuff like this. And we could do with knowing exactly the way they say it and the way they do it, really, because I think that's sort of super important. Okay, no worries. I just wanted to know what the mainstream media was for people that are out there working hard, and that is where they source their information on. Again, referencing to when you meet somebody and you're going, how on earth do you have that point of view? How can you see the world so differently from myself? It will help me and you guys hopefully understand why they think what they think. I think it's quite big. Right, I'm ready for another story from Canada, Bulrock.
Okay, so far I just covered my my main stories there. There's this MyoFix clinic opening in Brandon. I figured that would be something. It ties in with Dr. Glidden at Glidden Healthcare. If you wouldn't mind, I would like to discuss that.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's pick up Glidden Healthcare on the other side of this. Because we are discussing and formatting the show, you're seeing it live in action, I've got to say. Is there anybody? I think Stockport's here. Hey, Stockport, how you doing? Paul Starmer, I think I've said hello to everybody here. Guys, if you're just joining us and you're on the radio side of things, one of our radio affiliates, this is Rhea Bell on Sunday Long Live Radio. I'm just outside London. We've got Canada on the line, and it's Bulrock bringing us what's going on in Canada, and people are writing Rebel Media. Yeah, Rebel Media is a great outlet, I've got to say, but at the same time I want to watch what the mainstream are doing, because I don't think that many people are watching you. But we're going to cover Dr. Glidden and healthcare information via Bulrock after this.
live all day, every Sunday. Check out the website below.
Check your systems are offline. Number one for today's hits and all-time favorites.
And we're back. This is Rhea Bell on Sunday Long Live Radio. We've been looking for 50p's. No, the stream's been fine, so I don't know what's happening there, guys. Bullrock, so fill me in on Dr. Glidden. We like Dr. Glidden, you know. He's a good guy. And boy, has he taken some flack. Fill us in a bit more with what's going on with Dr. Glidden, would you please?
Well, Dr. Glidden, as you and I both know, has been a naturopath health practitioner for some time now. He's got many years into the field, and he is definitely contrarian to this green. I'll just call it the Green Health Initiative, which basically means like veganism and a lot of this new age anti-meat, anti-Neanderthal type of stuff that they're throwing our way towards meat eaters. And he has a lot of research points in regards to like animal fats and salts that really piqued my interest when you had him here online, because most of everything he claimed on the show live, that those couple times I've seen him, was every bit of research I have discovered that the medical industry does not want us to know. He is very much for this. I believe that the diet is the most fundamental part of our health. You got everything from preventing cancer to high IQ in reference to animal fats and salts, all the way down to longevity, diabetes, heart disease. It's all there. It all starts with your diet. Next being exercise and muscle health. But yeah, Dr. Glidden is definitely someone that I think everybody should be having a look at. You can find his videos, Glidden Healthcare, on YouTube. And I imagine he also has a website as well. And he is an incredibly informative man. And I strongly recommend his work for others who may or may not be tolerant, like gluten intolerance, Crohn's, this and all that. He has natural answers to it all, aside from going to the medical industry and getting put on prescriptions or some sort of special diet. Back to you there, Rhea.
Yeah, guys, you'll find shows that I've done with Dr. Glidden in our chat room. You'll find the link to our chat room on our website. Just go in your browser, type in Sunday Long Live Radio or hashtag Sunday Long Live. You'll find the website. You'll find some information on there. Get in the chat room, go to the Dr. Glidden channel, and you'll get an example of what Dr. Glidden is about. Right, Marty, what's the latest thing that the crazy, cast of Canadian government has been up to? So what's Trudeau been up to of late?
Well, Trudeau has been stepping on himself quite a bit. Like, spectacularly, there was a YouTube video being circulated about how it sounded like a blue-collar man who was quite well informed. He definitely had the hoser accent, though, hey? You know what I mean? Take off, you hoser. But at the same time, he really took it to Justin Trudeau. He brought up some concise points about how he would negotiate with Trump and just completely omit glaring things like how we are just being hosed by one-sided trade agreements, yet we're forcing a carbon tax down the throats of Canadians, and it's just bankrupting the West, you know? He highlighted the National Energy Program, which threw all these regulations onto the businesses and corporations, as if that wasn't bad enough. Now you have the Trudeau government digging us deeper in, buying the Keystone XL pipeline, which he didn't have to do. That was all going to be paid for by private investors. And it's quite clear that there is something not quite right in the head with the agenda from Justin Trudeau. Now, more on my radar today is Catherine McKenna, because she is trying to sneak in something very diabolical called a meat tax. This is part of her trying to enforce veganism on the population, and she views meat as a viable target for her sin taxes. When from her perspective, those sin taxes mean anything that generates a high carbon footprint, and now apparently works against the vegan agenda. So Catherine McKenna is quite clearly insane, and I honestly think that no one should be really listening to her. She wants this meat tax to go forward, and it's well documented scientifically that promoting a vegan diet towards children will lower their IQ and stunt their neural development. It is a betrayal of our mental health and our physical health, and I honestly think that needs to be brought up. Catherine McKenna is quite clearly a traitor to Canada for this. Back over to you, Rhea.
Yeah, no, I get that, darling. They're pushing the same thing here. It ran in the UK on mainstream radio, and I'm pretty sure that it made it into the mainstream TV as well, about meat tax. So is what we've got going on here, I'm sure, is what a lot of other people have going on. I watch the mainstream media, radio, World Service, BBC, TV channels. I watch these people because I need to know what the agenda is and where they're pushing us. And with this, they run this meat article and they run it intensely for like 48 hours. The whole news media across the board that are part of and being paid for by the conglomerates, they'll run that same story. That day or 2 days will all be about meat tax, and then you won't hear any more about it. You'll only hear the echoes of it on social media, you know, the on YouTube, Facebook, you know, you start seeing the posts, oh my god, they're going to introduce meat tax and stuff like that, and then you don't hear nothing. And then that is just softening us up for what is coming. And they did the same in the UK with diesel cars. They hit it hard, but they run it for about, I'd say it was in the news cycle hard for 2 to 3 days across everything. Then there was some echoes of it still in the mainstream, and then it went into the internet land. And from there, we really haven't heard too much about it. And I think this tactical approach that they must have had success with, because everybody goes around and then people go, well, I'm not going to buy a diesel car in the UK. Sure enough, car sales reports come out, diesel car sales, boom, down they go. Do you know what I mean? So this tactic of softening us early on, they run it hard in a news cycle so they know Mr. and Mrs. who work hard come home, see this and go, holy crap, I've just bought a brand new diesel car. Now I've got to buy another one because and it's out there. Do you know what I mean? Do you see the same thing going on your end, Marty?
I do. I'm noticing some backlash towards Tesla, though, on that note, with there's apparently these pump blockers that they typically drive old-looking pickup trucks, and they block the charging stations from Tesla. Again, I mark that as a reaction. There might be something sinister going on in the background, but I also mark that as a reaction to this green agenda. Now, what I see with Tesla, like in regards to offering an alternative to fossil fuels such as diesel, is he has essentially repeated the same mistake that an enterprising gentleman or group of gentlemen in the early 80s, late 70s made. They had hydrogen fuel cell cars back then, but they were only really popular in California amongst the elite and the hoity-toity celebrities. Because once again, the main oil elites wouldn't allow them to even make pumping stations anywhere in the US. And the company folded due to a lack of demand. I mean, this is the same type of cronyism I think Tesla jumped in first into. And I honestly am starting to suspect that a lot of this green agenda has been subverted to look absolutely revolting. So we all just go back to fossil fuels anyways. Like, I don't know how many angles are really at play here, but I do know that the green agenda as put forth recently from, say, the Ontario Liberals, the English Parliament over where you are, just anywhere in the world, really. Like even up here in Canada from Catherine McKenna, it all seems like it was set up just to fall. I am starting to really look at that, but either way, changing anything so fast from one type of economic template to another is just a bad idea anyways, regardless of the motives. Any thoughts on that, Ria?
I do have thoughts on that, darling. I mean, the whole methodology behind it is I think has been seriously well tested, and I just feel that when the people use their voice, and if it was a company, and I've referred to it in so many different guises. I used to call we're like the pesky kids from Scooby-Doo. They just want us to go away. They just want to report it, and basically say to you, look, don't question it. It's above your pay grade. Just get on with it. That's the corporate mentality, isn't it? And it really is. If you work within a big corporate company, it's shut up. It's above your pay grade. Just get on with it. And that's what's happened to government in my mind. And with this, they just want to go on full steam ahead. They have their meetings like demigods. We've seen them in the UN patting themselves on the back, haven't we? Oh, we've saved the world. And they go about their business, and government has turned into more like a company. I think it's always been that, but they sort of pretended it was a democracy at one point where they're sort of not doing that. And the UK, I believe, is on trial now. It really is on trial. If they don't do Article 50 and see... Britain, in the world's eyes, will not, or not Britain, the UK will no longer be seen as a democracy. How can it be seen as a democracy? You can't, can you? Do we keep voting until we get our own way? We are really seeing through Britain's attempted departure. It's like Hotel California, isn't it? Our attempted departure of the EU and how powerful these people are. So this thing running around, their style in the news cycle, I think we all could do with examining it. We look at the nuanced stories, but we don't really look at the mainstream that hard, and it's something that I really want to do. I really want to know, how does the CBC, the whole article top to bottom, how have they worded it? What wording are they used? You know, I could bring up articles now. I could do it right now, and I do it when I'm on my own. But this morning I was too busy putting 50p's in, trying to get the electric still to. We had 3 power cuts inside an hour. Marty, your thoughts?
Well, what I look for with the mainstream media on those points is I downloaded a list called the Fallacies Master List, and it's got some PhD credentials at the bottom who modified, edited, and altered this list. You can Google Fallacies Master List, and I mainly look for those. I look in particular for things like bait and switch fallacy, false equivalency fallacies, straw man fallacies, etc. They tend to be the more popular ones in the mainstream media. Just intellectual dishonesty and sophistry is their main weapon. And the other one I've noticed is, you notice when they pick words to define, like illegal, undocumented, irregular. If you Google any of these into and you get a viable search result like Merriam-Webster or whatever, you will notice all of these words have more than several definitions, at least definitely more than one. And I think the mainstream media uses this for plausible deniability. So if one of us comes and questions them on their use of this word, they can just say, oh, that's not what I said. Look at the definitions in the dictionary. I was using definition number 4.5 in regards to this little obfuscated and fringy definition, not the first definition, no. And they just do this over and over again. And their whole aim is to argue you down. And basically, it's a reducto ad absurdum, I believe. I believe that's how you pronounce it. They would try to reduce your argument to absurdity, and they will use every fallacy and dirty trick in the book to do so. Well, what are your thoughts on that there, Ria?
I think they can use every smoke and every mirror that they want, but the truth carries, and if it doesn't resonate with people, there's the problem, is if Mr. and Mrs. Hard working, they're working so hard just to pay the bills, which is what the Yellow Vest thing is about, isn't it? Look where we are today. It takes more than 2 people's income to pay the bills. People don't make it. And then you have these loan shark companies out there that are going to charge you 1 trillion% to get yourself out of trouble this day and paint it really rosy in a commercial somewhere. So I see tons of it going on, and it's getting to those people and forming something that that we can reach those people, and that's why I'm building Sunday Long Live Radio, something that you can just have on in the background. There'll never be any swearing, and that's what we've negotiated with the radio affiliates as well. You can just have it on in the background, you know. You can do your reading, or you can do the fully submersive experience on YouTube. You just have it tickling away in the background, you know, and that's what we're aiming to bring you guys. Right, we're going to take a tune before we move on any further. I hope you're enjoying us. This is Ria Bell on Sunday Long Live Radio. I'm just outside London, and Bullrock is in Manitoba. We've got to take that song. I've been playing this a few times, but it's just one of those things that I think lyrically and it resonates so much. And no matter what smoke and mirrors they use to convince you, nothing resonates like the truth.
We have
The new online radio that makes you happy.
Hey, lovelies, we're back. How are you doing? This is Ria Bell on Sunday Long Live Radio. I'm just outside London. We've got Bull Rock on, or Marty, in Manitoba in Canada. Marty, what other news have you got for us from Canada?
Well, I'm going to take up the ball and run with it here with the obfuscation of facts. And I wanted to bring up something that some of you, I hope, have been following, but I'm going to update some of you on what has been, the rest of you on what has been going on. There was a gentleman called Dr. Bogassian. Now, he is a professor at the Portland State University, and he has been against the pollution of academia the same way we brought up the pollution of the mainstream media, because I do believe this is intrinsically linked. Media and the education systems all fall under the scope of what Saul Alinsky was trying to warn us about with the rules for radical, references point 6. You take control of what kids read and listen to, and you basically hijack the media as well. Anyways, what this gentleman done is him and two of his peers a couple months ago released a series of documents that were completely farcical. I mean, like, think of Mel Brooks writing a parody script into academia, and this is what these guys did. And one of them most notably was chapter 12 of Mein Kampf. They took the entire chapter 12 written by Adolf Hitler, and they reworded it, twisted the words around, and made it look like a radical feminist manifesto. Now, these papers, along with others, including a pretty humorous one about dog parks and rape culture, ended up being submitted to the Grievance Studies Board for review, which is basically where all these radical feminists and intersectionalists are camped out. And not only were these articles accepted without being fact-checked, they were acclaimed by at least 3 news items attached to this, like radical leftist news outlets, which I can't recall at the top of my head right now. But what is the most glaring thing here is there was absolutely zero fact-checking done, other than just checking if it falls in with the intersectional agenda. They had no idea until it was revealed later that their feminist manifesto was actually chapter 12 of Mein Kampf. They had no idea that the dog park rape culture article was written tongue-in-cheek. And they really literally were, this Grievance Studies Commission was caught with their pants down. And I want to bring this down now because, well, everybody knows Portland, Oregon is basically a hotbed for Antifa and leftist neo-Marxism. This Dr. Bogassian, his job is in danger. And I wanted to bring this up because it looks like they're trying to blame him for everything, for their own lack of integrity and their own lack of fact checking. They're just trying to hoodwink they're trying to shoot the messenger. I mean, this is a type of activism which is done when you lose confidence in the establishment. Could it have been done maybe a little more on the down low and better? Yes. But at the same time, you cannot deny the objective morality behind the whole thing, where we have a trusted board, supposedly full of peers within academia, who just blindly and willingly and cheerfully threw up chapter 12 of Mein Kampf and lauded it as a hallmark of modern neo-Marxist academia. This cannot be ignored, and this puts Dr. Bogassian in the right beyond any doubt in my mind. I mean, when the state goes rotten, there is a tenure the state has towards its people and its subject. It doesn't matter if you're a king or if you're a president. You have a tenure to your people. And when things like this happen from boards, from academia, from the government, from media, that tenure is violated. You're sure private media can kind of get around this, but publicly funded media outlets like BBC and CBC, they have no excuse. They're breaking a tenure to the public. And there is no way to argue out of that, in my opinion. Back over to you, Ria.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I'm going to sort of move it in slightly different, less academic and more... It's quite a simple thing, actually, guys. Well, at least in my view anyway. And that is that if you have a government, an incompetent government that has bad policies and does not acknowledge those bad policies, why? Because it's stopped listening to the people. It's forgotten that they're public representatives. So it's what they do. They don't identify these bad policies. So therefore, they use authoritarian measures to enforce bad policies. People don't respond, so they use more authoritarian measures to enforce bad policies. because they're trying to cover up, or they are in denial that they cannot run a country. And you can measure this through economic statistics as well. Through history, when you look at statistics, take base interest rates. When an economy is driving forward, you've got what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, maybe more on base interest rates. And then when you start getting into deflation, they've mismanaged it. They haven't seen it coming. It's like when you run a company. If you start in a company, you've got high demand, low supply, for example, which is what Apple had with the iPhone. Huge demand, and they couldn't really supply it as fast as they wanted to. Then it goes through the trend curve, and then they turn into a low demand, high supply situation. Well, this is what happens to nations. And if they can't identify this, if they haven't got the economists going in saying, look guys, this is coming around the corner, we can see it, we've got all the stats on this. And instead of listening to them, they're too busy, like Trudeau and Macron, on TV looking good, doing selfies, just doing a public thing, and they keep pushing these bad policies. And this extends into the media, into the corporate left-wing world, where they carry it on through because they've been bought and paid for. And then you see this resonate coming down through into examples that Bullrock has just gave us. What do you think, Bullrock?
Well, I think there is definitely that is the moral objectivity in completion, you know? Leaders have a tenure to their people. I mean, what would a poor leader, poor business, poor corporation, all they're going to do is, it happens every time, they lose touch, they lose the plot, if you're speaking that way, and they end up driving themselves right into the ground every single time. This is a historical constant. Once the leaders lose it, they eventually lose themselves and they lose power. A revolution is imminent. You see this with the rise and fall of empires. They start with high energy and they end with high energy. They start with high energy when someone wants to take the plot from another failure. That's how the Roman Empire started. And the Roman Empire ended when they completely lost the touch with the people. They were debating the most banal and inane things. And this was also repeated with the Byzantines. They were taking it to Persia all the time, and then they didn't rebuild themselves up. And what came? Muslims. Then they were conquered by Islamists. Same thing with the Third Reich. Same thing with what's about to happen. Same thing with kind of what happened with the British Crown, where they basically kind of granted sovereignty to the Commonwealth. They didn't really collapse. We're like, Canada is still a constitutional monarchy on paper, but our House of Commons is allowed to run mostly autonomous to the Crown. But essentially, pragmatically, it meant the same thing. The British Empire did collapse, but we still proudly call our heritage the Commonwealth, because it didn't collapse the same way, say, Nazi Germany collapsed, violently and suddenly. And that's it, you know, like, this is why it is prudent for leaders to honor that tenure to the people. And I want to bring up where the tenure of kings and magistrates came from in the first place. A book by John Milton. If anybody in England over there knows who Oliver Cromwell is, they should know who John Milton is as well. He wrote a book called The Tenure of Kings and Magistrates, which highlights this and the failure of King Charles I of England to follow that tenure. And what happened? The Revolution and the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell, ruling till his death. Back over to you, Rhea.
Yeah, I'm going to take some comments, guys. There's some great comments here. We got serious on you there, guys. I need to laugh. I'm going to need to laugh soon. I'm going to laugh soon. I'm going to think about Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, but I don't want to get hysterical. Let's get some comments here. If you're just joining us, this is Rhea Bell on Sunday Long Live Radio. We're going to take the place of the mainstream media. All going well. We could do with your support. So if you'd like to check out our website, one-off payments, Patreon, help us build this up, and let's take it away from the people. And we want to show the mainstream media that the people are not as thick as they thought they were. No Way says the voice of we the people is missing in mainstream media. That is a brilliant comment, No Way. An absolutely brilliant comment. Akakashi, which always say, that's the link to the feminist papers and how they trolled them. It's a bit out of context there. Bullrock says excellent. Enoch, I don't know, was that you saying excellent? I don't know what you're saying excellent to. Enoch, hey there, No Way. London Ghost Hunter, haven't seen. Oh right, you're off topic. Let me get something on topic. Elizabeth Taylor, Bullrock equals dark to light, baby. Nice comment, thank you, Elizabeth. Pseudotopia, a thriving economy has little need for a large government. I tell you what, amen to that, Pseudotopia. I am right behind you there. And many civil servants, I'd put them all out of jobs, he says. Enoch says, what does that say, Dies? Anyone? Oh, that's off topic. Peter, Kofi, anything on topic? No Way says, we've got to run this super tanker of globalism around. We're turning it. Are we turning it? Right, we'll have to take that question. That is a huge question, is it? Are we turning it? I believe so. I do think so, actually, but that needs more in depth than that to really do that justice, to dignify it, doesn't it? What else have we got? Red Right Hand from Enoch. John Milton's The Red Right Hand. No Way says Nancy and Chuck. Oh, Nancy and Chuck, what a gift. Martin Houston, please play that. Not seen it yet. I don't do requests anymore, Martin, I'm afraid. I don't stream offline. Peter isn't here. Nancy Pelosi equals skin crawl and LCB. Do we ever have a say in the MSM? I think it's do we have any say in the MSM? No, we don't. But it's a replacement thing, isn't it? Right, we're coming up on time on Marty's segment. I hope you enjoyed that. I think Marty's style is hard and fast, so I'll go hard and fast with him. I'm dying to have a good chuckle though, guys. Marty, I'm going to pass it over to you for your finals.
All right. Well, I didn't really get to go over some news items to lighten the mood up a little bit. I'll talk about Jeff Bezos and his future failure in online marketing. I don't know what this guy's thinking, but Blizzard just recently released an online, was supposedly an online game through a phone app. It was called Diablo Immortal, and it flopped hard. And Mr. Bezos, I don't know. I think he's aiming for maximum failure here. I don't know what's going through his head, but he wants to create a Netflix-like service, but for video games, where instead of downloading the game and playing it on your hard drive, you stream it directly from a server, which you have, one, no security control over, and two, you're subject to internet lag problems and connectivity issues left, right, and center. Same way with cell phone app games. I mean, I'm just waiting for this. I mean, I think if as far as train wrecks go, instead of going hard and fast, I'm just going to sit back with some popcorn and some water and just watch this one beautifully blow up in my face. It can't happen to a better man, Mr. Bezos. Back over to you there, Rhea.
There you go, guys. Okay, so we're coming up to wrap this up. In the future, there will be some US hosts coming on that I'm working on in the background that will be taking the 5 p.m. slot. And it is now several seconds to 5 p.m. in the UK. If you're listening, this is Rhea Bell on Sunday Long Live Radio. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. Thank you for hanging with us. 3 power cuts, 1 internet shutdown. It's not going to stop us, though, We're going to keep coming. So if we get shut, during the show, if we go down, we'll be back, okay? So just know that. That's what's going on. Thank you, Marty, for doing what you do. And thank you to all the hosts, if you're listening, for doing what you do. And in answer to No Way's question, No Way's was, we've got to turn this super tanker of globalism around. Are we turning it? Do you know what? I believe we are. But it's what we need to do. I think we need to take a lesson from Einstein's definition of madness. Are we mad? There's the question. And it is to repeatedly do the same thing and expect the end result to be different. So we don't want to do that. We want to change it up, And by helping, if you're not used to putting a couple of bucks into something, try a change. Help us out and help us build this out so we can start to compete. Like I said, Americanuck has just gone onto the Washington DC mast. There is so much going on in the background here, you wouldn't believe it, I tell you. And it all helps out with a bit of funding, so please be generous. Help us out. You'll find all the details on our website there. Just type in Sunday Long Live Radio and help us build this out. Marty, your finals, and I'm going to shut this down.
Well, I am incredibly grateful for the viewers who are giving me props in the chat here. I only see YouTube, but I imagine it's coming from other avenues too, which I am unaware of. I want to give props to all of you. I do what I do because I passionately believe in the objective virtues and the objective morality that unites us all as human beings. You know what I mean? Sure, it's relative to being human, but that does not discount the effects of moral objectivity. We've seen this in World War I, where the Germans and the Allies decided to just not have it out on Christmas Day. Their orders were clear. They were in the trenches, and they were definitely fighting each other to the death. It was total war when they went at each other in the Somme and at Vimy Ridge. It was absolutely violent and brutal. They would literally leave rats to eat corpses just to terrorize the enemy. And on Christmas Day, that was all set aside. That was all put down. They just weren't going to do it that day. If you want proof of moral objectivity, there it is, right there. And the camaraderie of anybody who served in any army. The reconciliation in World War II of German soldiers and British soldiers is another example of this. They would take it to each other throughout the war period and probably even hate each other throughout the interwar period. Once they were old men, they were getting on buses, getting on planes, and they were doing meet and greets up until the time where they were passing away. Moral objectivity confirmed again. This is what I'm all about, people, and it is good to see that I am not alone here. It needs to come back. Our philosophy is under attack. It is under attack by two sides. We have the old elitists, the monarchists from the past who want to take power for themselves. And we have a new radical proletariat class of neo-Marxists who want to usurp power into what they call a new direction, but really it's just the same old direction, referencing George Orwell, how they're all really just all the same in the end. And this is something that I've been watching all my life. And I just want to let it go there with moral objectivity versus moral relativism, and the fact that we really need to get back to the universal glue that holds us all together as human beings. And that's all I got for now, guys. Again, thank you for all your support today, and thank you for all of your time for listening to us all day today, Sunday Long Live Radio with myself, Bullrock, and many others. Back over to you, Rhea.
There you go, guys. There's Bullrock coming at you hard and fast. I think you're getting a feel for Bullrock style. It's hard, fast. It's got a bit of a cold edge to it, but it does cut though, you know. So if that's your style, check out Canada Comes Online at 4 p.m. UK, and you can check out Bullrock. Okay, guys. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the show. I want to say a massive thank you for sticking around through all the technical stuff. I'm going to be taking the show host a bit of back end here. I'm going to be taking the show host through rehearsals, so we start to tighten this thing right up, so you are confident enough to have it on in the background, radio style, in replacement of these mainstream radio stations, because I think that is where we're going to find the freedom, at least in the near future. It won't be on video platforms, it will be on radio, you know. So I want to say love and peace to you all. Thank you for joining us. You know where we're going to be next Sunday. And don't forget to check out American Nook Radio, if nothing else, the second hour when I was on. Check that out, because that went live in Washington, D.C. on the FM transmitter. What was said there, and that was being said right to the belly of the beast. So just check it out if you want to. I'm going to shut this down, guys. I love you always, and thank you for sticking with us. We'll see you next Sunday. Check out our website. The admin will drop in our website address, and we would love some support here. I love you all, and I'll see you soon. Rhea and Bo, love and peace always.
You are not the